have that playing in the background because it's an awesome song. And oh boy, it's been a while. So it's this Sports Goofs number 190 is the start of our season. We took a very long hiatus due to the holidays and New Year's and work and a bunch of other stuff. But man, this game between the Coyotes and the Panthers is already spicy, Charles. This is great. This is what hockey's about. This is the sport. You're playing NHL right now, so just starting off with 2 fights in a row. That's the beef carrying over from their time in I don't know, University of Arizona State, whatever, when they were playing there earlier this season. Yeah, there's a lot of beef here. So the Panthers have started beef with everybody, Charles. Every team. It doesn't matter. Western Conference. It does not matter anymore to the Panthers. They just start beef with everybody. They are becoming a very hateable team, and it's a question I posed in my Marlins history account this week before I started going off, and I went into I became unhinged. I'm still unhinged, Charles, with regards to some certain things. But I'm starting off with this long monologue here. But with regards to whether you want your team to be good and likable or good and hateable. Now, you're a Yankees fan, Charles. So you know that you're on that side of the spectrum. But how do you feel?
It's different because good and likable and good and hateable is I really think for teams that are just blowing up. The teams that were good and likable that transition to good and hateable are like the Houston Astros. I call the New York Yankees and to a degree the Boston Red Sox best for business, because whether or not you guys hate us or like us, we're always going to be an echelon. And I'll give Boston its credit, the way they built the team the last 20 years. So echelon. So I wouldn't even say that we're approachable in that because of the fandom that I'm in for baseball, if that makes sense. Because we'll have that international, we'll have that national appeal as well. We'll have people wearing, number 2s and the hats over in Idaho and Montana. We'll have people who I lived in Queens, so you would think I should be a Mets fan. I was a Yankees fan, right? Granted, family has an influence, but if I was to associate that with any of my teams, good and hateable, it's fine. You only do good and likable if you think someone's going to score up on you and you're a little bit of a punk ass one for it. But there shouldn't be any of that energy anyway. But truly, it doesn't matter as long as you're good, because you could be like the San Diego Padres, who are bad and unlikable, and that's the worst.
Yeah, that's
truthfully
true.
Whatever it is, it's better than that option. Another example is the Colorado Rockies. You could be bad and unlikable as well, as you guys will see. Very short time where that comes up with. Because aren't they pretty unlikable? I would say they're unlikable.
The Colorado Rockies, the baseball team.
Yeah.
I've got things to say about Colorado.
And they're pretty bad. They're no franchise guys, so there you go.
So, I am liking
good or likable or good or hateable.
I'm liking the good and hateable aspects of the Florida Panthers, because really just the things that the fan base has dealt with over the course of the last decade and a half. People trying to move the team, people trying to, just all these Northerners just shitting on us. And finally, the Panthers have a team that's really good. Like 21-22, when they score all those points, they won the President's Trophy, all that. That was just basically, it was a house of cards, and it just fell apart right when they actually needed to be good in the playoffs. But last season, the big run, and that's carrying over to this season. And they have players that are just dicks on the ice, but they've got the skill to back it up.
And are we counting 2? Are we counting dicks as 2?
Yeah, I'll count it.
All right,
how many have I done? 2? I've done 2.
You're at 2 now.
I'm at 2.
I expect a lot from you.
All right. Yeah. Oh,
but we're still carrying that over, kids, on the season premiere. It's something that we like because
we're counting the.
We're Andrewless most of the times. We have to be the moral balance, and it's just fun for us.
So, it's been a very nice experience, and I've posed the question to other Panthers fans, because I've also not really posed it, but I've posted about it, and they are also enjoying this aspect of the Panthers, because for the longest time they've really haven't had great skill players, and they've just kind of been being pushed around. Now they have great skill players, and they also have some actual guff to them, some sisu,
Gumption?
some
Gumption?
sisu, some
The
sisu, Charles.
The sisu?
Yeah.
Not sushi.
Okay, they're hula.
Not Sifu.
They're
A fantastic game that you guys should play.
Yeah, they're hula, and they've got some sisu to them, right? So they're good, and they got some grit, right? So that is the greatness of having this team here, the best professional sports team in South Florida right now. And a lot of people aren't ready to have that conversation, but it is the Florida Panthers. But the Heat have done some things, and we'll get to that too, to try and reclaim that title. And we're going to have some little bit of resonance, Charles, from the year Francisco, because I've titled this episode The Year of the Charles Redux. And
it's literally, I feel like it's going to be my year.
Yeah, so it's not a loop, Charles. It's a spiral. There's some similarities to the first year of the Charles, but those things are just some actual notable differences as well as we're carrying through. You know, we're seeing some echoes. You know, Doc Rivers is back, right? So.
This is all. I need people to understand something. Francisco and I. We did plan a little bit lightly to the premiere, or we usually do always plan for a premiere. And the last week,
our brains
has just given us the buffet. It got the free meal. It was me at Townies with that 60-year-old drunk guy who just wanted to be pals with me. Just ordered me free wings.
Oh, that was
like,
great.
Sure,
great story.
Yeah, true story too, guys. It's great. And this is even 10 minutes ago when I texted you another thing about a certain coach coming back. I'm like, we get that. And then the certain edition, we get that. And then all this other stuff. So the universe knows that we're back in full force, and it gave us a little bit of help, into it.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, there's a lot of things planned. So we've got a month and a half, maybe almost 2 months really of things. Alexander Barkov is back. He just scored a goal. So there's some of that, Somalainen Sisu right there, baby. So, yeah, I'm throwing a lot of Finnish terms today, Charles.
And you know what? The hockey players would love you for it because they probably know what that means.
Yes, a certain director, producer, writer in Finland also would like that too, I would hope. Please love me. And so
follow Sam Lake on the Twitter.
I don't even know. Yeah. Do the plug, Charles. Let's go.
All right. Follow us on the Twitter, Charles True, FJOJR, Dan Frijoles, Sports_Goofs, Marlins Historian, Panthers Historian. Panthers Historian is a big plus right now. You should go listen to whatever spaces they have. Marlins Historian, pretty big right now. You should listen to the spaces.
I've got like 2 million impressions on Twitter in the last 3 months. So
and I don't even know what that means, guys.
It's just people
it's
seeing
doing
my
good.
shit.
Oh, there you go.
There we go.
And follow Sam Lake and Remedy Games. Shout out Sam Lake, the creator of Alan Wake 2, Control, creative director. Remedy is all development. Max Payne 1 and 2, Quantum Break, Death Rally. Hint, everybody.
Writing blogs, this House of Dreams and stuff like that. Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff that man has been doing. So, yeah, it's yeah. So I don't even know where to start. Where do we start? Do we do it with the Baseball Hall of Fame? Should I just get off now and
go from there? We have to move on to bigger and better things.
Yeah. This is.
I mean, it's a perfect correlation to where we left off because I think we did the Hall of Fame predictions in the last episode.
Yeah, that's true. That was our last thing. So, Baseball Hall of Fame results have come out, and it is Todd Helton, Joe Mauer, and Adrian Beltre. The only one that I have no problems with being a first ballot Hall of Famer.
I was 2 of 3.
So there you go. But I'm going to try and get this on the big screen here. So let me get over here and we'll take a look at the percentages, Charles.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll go from there. We'll try and blast through it, but I do have a rant that I already did yesterday when it was hot and fresh, right?
Hot and juicy.
So that is what's going to be happening.
Just like Sam Lake.
Yes. Sami Yadri is his real name, but Sam Lake, baby. All right, so let's see. Hall of Fame results. Let's see if that gets me something here. If I spelled it right. All right, so here are the voting results, Charles. So, minimum 75%. Beltray got 95.
Yeah. Fair.
Helton got 79.
Yeah.
And Maurer
I said he shouldn't, for those who need the reminder.
And then
I was that guy.
Maurer has 76. Billy Wagner
Fair.
at 73. Gary Sheffield, which
that.
is what Drew Meyer got 63.9, the highest he ever got in his final year. His final year, he was the only one on the ballot this year that was in his final season of this. And then Andrew Jones at 61, Carlos Beltran at 57, then A-Rod at 34, and
cowards. Y'all are cowards.
Manny Ramirez at 32.
Hey, interesting.
So I went off yesterday on behalf of Gary Sheffield, blasting the 36.1% of the people that did not vote for him, and basically putting up numbers against Joe Mauer, who was a catcher for half of his career, and the other half was as a first baseman.
I don't even think it was half. I think he had like 3 years in his back.
He played literally like 2 more games than he did at catcher than first baseman or something like. It was a very significant.
It was short because he was hurt a lot.
Half and half
in those final years.
Yeah. So, yeah, that was the other thing. And but Minnesota boy, grew up, played for them, and MVP twice. And those were the numbers. Of course, never got past the New York Yankees in the playoffs. So it really did not have any good playoff numbers. Had maybe one series that he had like 300, but still lost to the Yankees. So couldn't break that curse whatsoever. And then we had Todd Helton, who also did not hit well during his one lone World Series run, but played at Coors Field, did really shitty against the Marlins between the two venues. Really great at Coors, really bad at Pro Player Stadium, and I guess at Lone Depot Park. I don't know if he played there for a little bit. So even then, but I was still, Gary Sheffield still didn't have any sort of concrete evidence against him. His name showed up on the Mitchell report, but he never failed a drug test.
Associated with Barry Bonds, which we all know that opinion that we all have here as rational human beings.
Right. And at this point, the Baseball Writers Association have lost credibility, and they're losing more and more as the years go on with all of this issue between steroids and everything like that. I listened to Greg Cody on Lebertard's show today, and his criteria is like, I don't give first ballot to the steroid users, but I'll give it to him after that. So he's been routinely voting for A-Rod, Manny, Sheffield, and whoever else was associated with it before. So he's done that.
Essentially, anybody who scored more than 30 burgers of a dinger.
So
from the era of 1997 to 2007.
Gary Sheffield never struck out more than 90 times in a season, and he was a power hitter, mind you. So his defensive metrics, I've always said, like, he was an infielder. He was a shortstop. Then the Brewers wanted, didn't want to, deal with him, send him to San Diego. San Diego forced him to convert to third base. He almost won a Gold Glove at third base. And then he goes to Florida, and the Marlins found a way to assuage the situation, have him become a right fielder at least, so that, right field is where you put your worst fielder, really. Yep. That's where you stick him. That or first base. Those are the two positions where if they just suck, they absolutely suck at fielding, you stick them at first base or you stick them in the right field. That's it. So that's what Sheffield had to deal with, and of course, no DH in the NL. So, but hey, still didn't affect his hitting because he hit. He was iconic bat waggle. Spent most of his career with the Marlins. Would have stayed with the Marlins had he not accepted the trade in the Mike Piazza deal to help out Charles Johnson as his friend. And people making negatives that he played for too many teams. Well, teams traded him, I think 4 times in his career. He was traded from Milwaukee to San Diego, traded from San Diego to Florida, traded from Florida to LA, and then LA to Atlanta. And then after Atlanta, it was the first time he actually exercised his free agency by going, I think he went to the Yanks, right, first? And then he went to the Tigers and like the Mets.
Well, we let his contract expire after those 3 years because I think we had to make room for a certain man.
But he signed with the Yankees. He actually, so you can't punish the players for exercising free agency, and you can't punish them for being traded.
Well, if I can interject, because I know the rant's going slightly on preview, but I want to get your body all steamed up. If you notice the trend, it's a lot of guys who got in this round was the lifers for a team or majority of their contracts. And that's been the trend the last couple of years too, right?
Sam Reinhart with this 35th goal of the season. Man is on fire. Okay, go ahead.
But that's it, Joe Mara, lifelong twin.
Yeah.
Todd Helton, lifelong Rocky, to my remembering of things.
Yeah, 2 lifers, and then Adrian Beltre, who also bounced around, by the way, from L.A. to, he was in Seattle, he was in Boston.
But he played like 10
Texas.
years, so being in Texas for 10 of it, right?
Yeah, he was mainly with the Dodgers and the Rangers, and he bounced around with the Mariners and the Red Sox.
It's amazing how we think about that and we make that argument to Ken Griffey and we forget that he spent a oodles amount of time in Cincinnati as
Jim
well.
Thome played for the Baltimore Orioles.
Yeah, right? Right?
So
everybody could be Derek Jeter.
Yeah, so it shouldn't matter anymore with regards to guys bouncing around. Okay. Oh, it's 3-0 Panthers. There we go. Cool beans.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, they are just pouring it on after those 2 fights. So that's great to see.
I'm doing the one-on-ones in NHL to remember mechanics, and then I'm gonna jump in. I'm gonna simulate Panthers, Coyotes. I'll have fun with it.
But at this point, my ire, and I'm a little more calm than I was yesterday. If you want to listen to my rant, to my Marlins History account, where I was way more unhinged about it, but I was basically saying, the steroid thing, David Ortiz is in, Punch Rodriguez is in. And
what was that comment I made? If when I die and go to hell, I want to ask Bud Selig why didn't take the piss test for David?
I said in my rant, maybe Gary Sheffield should have gotten shot, and he would have gotten the sympathy points.
Well,
and I said, Charles, I don't know if I should pull this, but maybe I should. It's spicy though. It's a bit spicy. I'm saying maybe Gary Sheffield, there aren't many black players playing baseball no more. And there might be some things behind that too. But the way guys treated...
I'm all for that conspiracy.
Guys from the baseball media around the 90s, and you saw this with Barry Bonds and the Jeff
Tim Kirchin, we love you.
And the Jeff Kent dynamic where the media treated Bonds different than Kent, even though Jeff Kent was as much of an asshole. So... There's some things there too, and people said, "Oh, Gary Sheffield didn't treat the media that well," and all that stuff too. So there's biases obviously, but there might be some underlying stuff there too. I'm just throwing it out there because I don't know what the fucking criteria is. 6? Is that 6? I don't know what it is anymore.
Yeah, I think the criteria now is just be international apparently. Ooh,
no,
just saying.
So
Matsuzaka, he's already up. That's just the example.
Next year, Ichiro's a no-brainer. He's getting in.
Yep.
And then there's a bunch of other ones that I don't know.
CC and Felix.
CC should get in as well.
Because you know what's great about
I've done the
CC
breakdown already on my own.
We did it,
solo,
and I knew that. So here's the great thing, if I can interject, and we're gonna do it a year in advance when we have our Sports Goofs segment in the Goofiverse. We'll work on the name.
Yeah.
You have to start accepting guys like Felix and CC now, because you are no longer going to really get pitchers who have sub-3 ERAs in the Hall of Fame. You have to do wiggle room, and now you have to deal with the guy. Congratulations. Yeah. Your Hall of Fame is now has to consist of guys who ERA's career is going to be 3.5 on. Yeah. Post-steroid era, right? Interesting. So what really happened, right, in theory? But those 2 big, beefy boys were still torchbearers. Cy Young winners, you get that criteria, and multiple All-Stars, and like wins later. So that's coming in. Dustin Pedroia is not a Hall of Famer. Market. I sent it to you.
But if he gets in, it's Ooh,
it's going to be the Joe Mauer effect
Yeah.
because how many second basemen can you think off the top of your head that got in?
Yeah.
And because of the teams that he played for. If Dustin Pedroia played on a different team at that time frame with no success, he could, because is that not Joe Mauer? Maybe you get a little bit of it because he made
Pedroia shouldn't get in if Chase Utley's not in yet.
Yeah. I saw someone else comment on that, and I think that's a very legitimate thing. And it is a little bit of Red Sox hate, but screw Pedroia. Is he a good player? Yeah, we're not on the Hall of Fame.
He was fine for like 3 seasons. Really?
But that
4 seasons. Got the 2 World Series trophies, I guess. Yeah. That's it.
You got 1 MVP.
Yeah.
One MVP. You get an MVP. That's why the Joe Mauer thing didn't bother me as much. I'm like, all right, he's MVP. And is there politics to it? Did he get 2? I was compared to Pedroia. You got 2 of them batting tile at that position, which is so rare because catchers are more for the defensive, grounds and working with their pitchers. I love Jorge Posada. I will never say it. I think it's Yankee fans can kill me. I think it's debatable if Jorge is even the Hall of okay-ish. You know what I mean? On the metrics of things, but there's always that weak link, right?
All right, so we're at 23 minutes. I want to wrap this up because we got so much more to talk about. But my
can I give my minor steroid rant for 2 minutes after?
Sure, and I guess this might tie into what I'm gonna say too. Is that the Baseball Hall of Fame is a marketing tool for baseball? That's what it's supposed to be. It may have been something else when it started, but now it's a marketing tool. The Basketball Hall of Fame, everybody makes fun of it for being way too easy to get in, right? But people feel really good when the player that played for your team is in. It's really nice for us as Heat fans to look up and you see all the banners, except for UD, but UD, he's the OG. But the rest of them,
the Hall of Fame, damn.
The rest of them, you got the retired number, and then on the bottom, Basketball Hall of Famer, Zoe, Hardaway, Shaq, Wade, Bosh. LeBron's going to go up there soon as well. So that's really nice to see. And in baseball, it should be the same thing. So as a Marlins fan, I feel like that was the last opportunity for the team. That was the last legitimate one that we've got. I don't know when. I don't know. It's my only thing is, Giancarlo, but he's probably going to go in as a Yankee if he stays healthy enough to get to, like 500. So that's it. Aside from that, we're not getting any more. There's nobody on the
guys in the Hall of Fame at 400.
Everybody's like, oh, Sheffield can get in, the Veterans Committee, all this stuff. That's like in 2 seasons or 2 years, whatever. And who knows if the sea change happens, right? Because they already missed the boat on Bonds and McGuire and Sosa and all these guys. It's going to take somebody big. And Greg Cody said today is basically like he keeps voting for A-Rod because it probably would take him. If he gets in, everybody else is opened up. Clemens, Bonds, Sosa, McGuire, and then the rest of them from there. So... Yeah. So that's my bit, but you can go on with the thing. But it's a museum. It's a base. You can't tell the history of baseball without the steroid era. The steroid era is what made me a fan of baseball because Sammy Sosa is who I loved.
And so I can take it relatively slow because I think this is one of the few things I could say just exclamated real quickly. You need to accept steroids as part of the game. You cannot take away of it whether it was banned or unbanned. The idea that you took steroids should not I'm just saying it should not disqualify you from Hall of Fame consideration because that's what the punishment of the MLB season policies are. Yeah. Whether they want to make it lifetime ban, season ban, that's on to them. You already have an implementation in place. You as the Hall of Fame committee are not the MLB extension, correct? You don't work for the MLB. You're not part of the MLB. Maybe you have a collective unit to it. And please correct me if I'm wrong. But you shouldn't have governing power off the sanctity of the game. I think
it's really the baseball writers, just a
correct
bunch of dudes who, you don't even have to look at the game of baseball anymore. They can just look at numbers, and by numbers, Sheffield should have gotten in. But
and if Rob Manfred wants to say, hey, we're going to enshrine on our own volition, Gary Sheffield, Alex Rodriguez, Sammy Sosa, Mark McGuire, and Sammy Sosa for putting the eyes on the ball of that race, because even Barry Bonds wasn't as hot during that time period, if I recall correctly. We were young, but it's still there to get anybody interested that wasn't from those demographics supporting the Cubs or the Cardinals. This idea, and Andrew's like Coach from New Girl. They just have some cameos that come in, so we can speak on his behalf in the argument to it. And I love Andrew. He's too much of a Boy Scout sometimes with his logic and rationale. And this is when it comes in. He's like, steroids should be coming into consideration because what was it that he said? It can affect hits and home runs. I disagree. I disagree wholeheartedly. Maybe you can get me on the home runs, but when it comes to those hits, I always felt that steroids can't make. It's not like an amphetamine, right? It's not going to have you understanding predictions of where the ball is going to be, have better vision, have better sight. That's meth for all those who want to know. But and the ability where this is advanced stuff in that era that we had, we're going to call steroid era, 96 to 2009. We want to give it that long branch before the MLB really got focused.
Yeah, basically.
So, the pitchers weren't from your whiny-timey 1970s and 80s who probably had 3 kinds of throws. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I know there was more. I'm being facetious. Please understand that.
Yeah.
But, it doesn't...
Chunk of the ball anyways.
It doesn't take away of studying the tape, understanding the pitchers, especially in the advancements of the game when they started taking away from guys who were going 7 to 9 innings-wise, and now that there was hitters looking at multiple pitchers between sets and innings and everything of that nature. And yeah, maybe I'll give you that steroids itself can affect somebody to be able to hit a 455-yard bomb, but I don't think it's going to affect a person's ability to hit a single or a double when it's going down low, and a check swing would really be a foul. You know what I mean? And what did I say in the chat? I'm going to put it out there because logic is the enemy of conspiracy, right? And it's the enemy of the righteous sometimes. If me and Andrew took steroids all right now, we're not hitting dingers.
No.
We're not hitting it out of Coors Field, nor are we hitting it out of Wrigley Field, nor are we hitting it out of any other stadium that's out there, right? The furthest one or the closest ones. It takes nutrition, it takes training, it takes endurance, it takes strength training. And it's a logical fallacy that if you don't put into the work, that happens to it, but you don't want to acknowledge that. Because, anabolic growth hormones, whatever that nature is, whatever your opinions on it, you hate it because the feds were basically, hey, it's illegal, right? But in a government, and how it was being transported, but in a governing body, that's what criminal charges are for, right? Isn't that what we did with the whole Brian McNamee situation? And no one got penalized or arrested for that. McNamee did, if I recall correctly. But there's no players that came to this. It wasn't even as devastating as you want it to be. But this is what happens with this society, and I think this is where the writers mirror it, is that they took something. They felt that they gave reverence to something because they treat the sport like a religion, like it's God, right? And then they said, that's my Bible. You can't ruin the sanctity of it, when the idea for these kind of enshrinements should be an involvement, because at the end of the day, you already have it, the administration basis putting in what the policies would be. If the MLB wants to put in, if upon multiple violations of an HGH, or if you're taking tramadol, clenbuterol, anything of that nature, you will not even have considerations post benefits. If they want to violate players' benefits, post playing career, they have every right to do that, right? Collective bargaining agreements all get rewritten. Sure, but you guys aren't that extension. So to do it so frivolously on the basis of steroids, because Alex Rodriguez is a Hall of Famer. I said they should have put him in last time. McGuire, Sosa were, but they're off the ballot now. I don't like Manny Ramirez. I'm a hypocrite, but if I have to stay on the line, he in theory should be there too. You never took a piss test on David Ortiz because he was too goddamn likable. 3. And that's what it was. So you're cherry picking, and I understand Alex Rodriguez associated with that, but the lack of science, because I said it, and I'm being true for it. Some of those guys are just lifting 5-pound dumbbells, and they're living in mama's basement, which I know is not true because they're all elderly, but it's the lack of understanding of it. And if you felt that it affected the home run rate, which I still don't believe it, to be honest with you, but if you felt it, then you could take considerations that they're not automatically enshrined the first year, but they should be second, third, or fourth. It's very silly, man, how they call it a self-imposed rule, but no one exercises the right to be different until, if you noticed, when they're so close near to expiration. Roger Clemens should be in the Hall of Fame, plain and simple, right?
Yeah.
Him I can actually believe if you're going on pitchers. But for a league or I'm sorry, not a league, but for a coalition of voters, and this is where it amazes me, who all they care about, truthfully, is how many hits and how many home runs came from it, because that's been the latest trend of everything, right?
War,
Because
all
you
this other
don't
stuff. Yep.
war, you don't really consider the defensive metrics. There's guys I've seen in the Hall of Fame that don't have a lot of gold gloves coming in, right? You're not looking at, because Torrey Hunter would be in there. You're not looking at the all around body of work. You got caught up in the fear of 1997, 1998 politics of how bad steroids was. The same thing about like Tipper Gore and her parental advisory because she hated black music, because she didn't like rap music, because she didn't like the soundings of what certain people were coming into it, right? That's what it was. You remember those things. Moms got caught up into the censorship of everything going from there, because you had different rap groups coming in from that. And then maybe to bring it back to what you were saying, is maybe there's a little bit of that concern of different cultural personalities, right? So it really kind of goes into it. And that's how I felt about them. That was my rant.
Okay, well, we're at 33 minutes, so that's the baseball talk. That's the end of that, Charles. I think I can wrap off some hockey stuff for now. Just a summary as to where we've been at this one. We're close to the All-Star break, and it's going to be in Toronto. The jerseys are a mess. They were designed by Justin Bieber, and people hate them, so it's great. The Panthers All-Star Vice 90s inspired jerseys look fantastic, and in comparison, Toronto's taking another L, so that's always fun to see. The Panthers have done great, but we've still got the Boston Bruins, who are still rattling off wins in the regular season. Not at the clip they were at last season, but they're still a very good hockey club. The Lightning are hanging around as well. Bit kind of slowing down there after all these years, but they're still hanging around. The Leafs also, they've got potent offense and everything like that. Still can't play defense for shit, but they can worry about that once the playoffs start. But they haven't really won many games in regulation, so that's a bit concerning whether they can actually last in the actual playoffs. The Detroit Red Wings have improved. They're not quite there yet, but they are hanging around, so they might be able to fight for a wild card spot as they currently hold it right now. So that's very encouraging for them and the Yzerman plan out there. So you've got that. The rest of all those teams are in the Atlantic Division or hold a playoff spot as of today. The Montreal Canadiens are meh. They kind of played a little bit above their heads to start the season. But
what's Canadian for meh?
Yeah,
meh.
But Montreal Canadiens and the Buffalo Sabres have completely fallen apart, and they are not anywhere near where they thought they'd be. They thought they had rebuilt because they had a pretty good, surprisingly good season last year. And this year they've returned to earth. So the Ottawa Senators are even worse. They sit with 37 points, and they thought they'd be further along in this. Brady Tkachuk, just demand the trade, dude. Come to Florida. Let's go. Let's get both the bros here. Let's do it.
Yeah, you already had a deal with the Stahl brothers, right? So it's time to get the Tkachuk brothers.
Yeah, get the Tkachuk brothers, and let's.
We don't give a Tkachuk. Oh man.
So
market that.
It's been marketed actually.
Oh, damn it! I didn't know that.
A long time ago. The Metro Division, the New York Rangers are also doing fantastic to start this season. Very much a cup contender. They kind of have all the pieces going for them right now, and the Philadelphia Flyers. So John Tortorella, Torts, has gotten them to play the style of hockey that he likes to do, and he seems to be one of those few coaches that he wears out his welcome after like 3 or 4 seasons, but in those first 2, he really squeezes a lot of talent out of very little. And the Flyers.
So he's the Tom Thibodeau of hockey?
Possibly. Even though, but Torts actually got it done. He's got a ring. So there you go. But he's got the Flyers playing with 56 points, second in the division. The Carolina Hurricanes are also hanging around. They got 55 points. It should be they'll be fine. They'll be fine. I think they just got to find a way to do it in the playoffs and kind of get over the hump. They just can't. They're sitting there right there, but they can't get through it. The New Jersey Devils have kind of underwhelmed people this season, and it's not going as well as they thought they would. But they're still hanging around, and it's really a matter of can they get through it. Maybe they can make some trades to kind of fix their flaws and get back on this. The New York Islanders fired their coach and have hired Patrick Waugh as their head coach. He hasn't coached an NHL team in a bit. He's the coach of the Avalanche. Of course, a Hockey Hall of Famer, one of the best goalies of all time. And it
still shocks me how they'll do the quick in-season firings and hirings until a certain thing that happened yesterday in another sport.
Mm-hmm. Well, the Islanders just did it, and Patrick Waugh has kind of been bouncing around juniors and all kinds of stuff, kind of still staying relevant there. And they hired him for this job, and he's a bit of a crazy person, Charles. So that's going to be interesting to see. But the Islanders are sitting at 51 points. The Washington Capitals got 50 points, and I think some of the predictions before the season started about how they would fare going forward. Maybe it's finally age is finally reaching this team, and they're just kind of riding this out, hoping that Ovechkin gets close or breaks Gretzky's record. We'll see if they get to that, but Washington's just a team that's that their time period is come and gone. And the Pittsburgh Penguins are also feeling that as well. They've got 48 points. It hasn't started clicking just yet. They've got a few games in hand to kind of put it together and maybe fight for one of those wild card spots. But so far this season, they're kind of just hanging around, and it may not actually work. It might be time for the Capitals and the Penguins to
blow it up.
Yeah. This might be the first time that people can actually legitimately say that. The Penguins, they're old teams. They've got pieces that would do a lot better to kind of build up their farm system and blow it up. They've got veteran players that would be very valuable for a lot of playoff runs. I just think maybe it's time. Keep Crosby and Ovechkin, let them ride it out, but everybody else can kind of send them off. And the Blue Jackets are the worst team in the Eastern Conference, just kind of sitting down there at the bottom. Western Conference, the Winnipeg Jets have been really good, as well as the Vancouver Canucks in the Pacific. So those two teams are leading their divisions. The Vegas Golden Knights are hanging around. They got 62 points. They're a good team. The same thing with the Colorado Avalanche and the Dallas Stars, who I actually did see in person this few weeks ago. And they do good hockey out there in Texas. The Edmonton Oilers. In
Texas.
Yeah, the Edmonton Oilers have got their shit together now, Charles. They're sitting in third. 9? Yeah, I think I'm at 9. They are at the third place in the Pacific Division, 55 points. Connor McDavid got angry, started scoring a bunch of points, and yeah, they put it together. So they're playing back up to their potential, which is good to see. The Los Angeles Kings kind of faltered a bit. They're sitting at 4th in the Pacific. Seattle also got on a bit of a hot streak because they were doing really terrible to start the season, but then rattled off like a 9-game winning streak and kind of put themselves back into the wild card conversation. They're still a ways off, but they'll figure it out. Arizona, the Coyotes, are playing the Panthers right now. They've been hanging out around a bit, right? They kind of built a little bit of a scrappiness to them in their very tiny Arizona State arena. It'd be fun to see them make the playoffs. I will say that. So I'm cheering for the Coyotes. We don't know if they're going to stay. Some news that Salt Lake City is trying to lure the NHL to get an expansion team So there's some talk about that. Houston is also a viable city, and they might want to try Atlanta again. So there's some news with regards to that. The Flames are not playing up to their potential, and the Panthers have still won that trade, Andrew. So,
How's Tampa? I kind of zoned out for a second.
they're in third place in our division, and they've been hanging around. They're a team that I wouldn't want to face in the first round, but if the Panthers ever did face them, it might be one of those, hey, they finally passed them type of deals, hopefully.
Okay.
But who knows? All right, and that's kind of the rundown of the NHL, really. Corey Perry's back. He's with the Edmonton Oilers now. So he went through his whole
Connor McDavid's
alcoholism phase and yeah, but I don't know. Alcoholism mom phase, and then we'll see what happens there. And what other news popped up over the last week and a half, month and a half in the NHL that I can think of that's popped.
We took a long break.
Yeah, I mean, I've touched a lot of points. I think I've got most of the broad strokes with the NHL so far. So that's my breakdown. I've got the Heat game on now, and they got. I think Scary Terry's playing today. I think he was.
Yes, he's playing today.
So that's great. And we're at 43 minutes, Charles. Where do we go from here?
Do we?
I mean,
yeah,
we're on it. We're on the breakdown because I think football will take precedence afterwards.
That, and I think we have a joint.
Yeah, non-sponsor.
So let's do basketball.
All right, so
let's get the crap out of the way before we get to good stuff. All right. The double stuff Oreo basketball news.
Let's start with our beloved Miami Heat, because I think by focusing on the Heat, we could talk about the stuff that's going around them in the league as well, because some of the things that are moving and grooving through the NBA. Sorry, I was going to say the NHL, but the NBA kind of correlates into what the Heat are doing, because Heat are trying to find their way. So let me pull up the standings, Charles. I'm gonna actually do that. That'd be a smart thing to do.
In sixth place last time I checked.
Yeah, but we could talk about each team, anything that stands out, because some stuff has gone down.
It's time to get back interested in basketball.
I watched the game. I watched the Heat game.
And you don't get the Jaime because I think he was injured.
Yeah, but regardless, I still watched the Heat game on TV. I didn't go to a game, but
of course.
I did watch it. They won. I forgot who they were playing, but they won. So, all right, Eastern Conference. So let's work from the bottom. We'll work our way up. The Detroit Pistons have won a couple of games since the last time we were here. They had a record-long losing streak, and then people of Detroit got their wings at Wingstop after the win.
A normal human hand has more fingers than the Detroit Pistons have wins. I think they're still at 4, right?
Yeah, they've got 4. So there you go. But Detroit's got other things to celebrate right now. And
Is it Monty's fault? Because remember, they took him when he got fired from Phoenix, and I understand there's a piss poor roster.
He took more money to be with the Pistons.
Job security. I think you know what you're getting into.
Yeah, so they're gonna pay him, and he knew he was getting into a really bad situation, but we'll see. Washington's bad. There you go.
Real bad, just as bad.
The Hornets are bad, and they just sent over.
Just as bad.
We just made a trade with that team, Charles.
Let's
start. Let's talk about Terry Rozier.
Ooh, I thought you were going to talk about the other component.
I'm
gonna let you talk. I have a reaction.
I want to bring you into this because this is the year of the Charles Redux, Charles. This is not a loop; it's a spiral. We're spiraling. We're seeing some similarities here, and part of that spiral is your fandom as a Miami Heat fan. It's a certain ire for a very thick point guard that
thicker than a Five Guy milkshake.
Yes. So, Kyle Lowry, champion with the Raptors, but that was mostly Kawhi, and comes to the Miami Heat.
And Pascal.
And was the missing piece after the departure of Goron. So we get Kyle Lowry to replace the man. Paid him a bunch of money. A bunch of very unmovable money at the beginning of the team. And, well, take it away. It's been a few years now.
Oh, happy day. Oh, happy day. Oh, happy day. 3 or 4 years ago, I think it was 3, when that announcement came, and we had our segment, I said, I don't like this at all. Kyle Lowry, to me, in fandom, from watching the Raptors play, and they did the whole business of trading DeMar for Kawhi and all this other fun jazz that came in. I felt that he was past his prime, if he did have a prime, right? He's part of that hall of pretty good, right? But our weakness, and you're like 8 years, I'm like 84 years, but now I think about it, like, no, it's 8 years. Of having a point guard who can be healthy past his 30s is very hard for some reason. Like, we're snake bitten with it. And you had him at that time who was 34, and it's not that he's out of shape. I always feel like it's unfair to say someone's out of shape. I know what out of shape looks like. You know, Eddie Curry's somewhere in there, right? But Lowry was always kind of hurt. He's not Mr. Clutch Shot, which is kind of what we needed to facilitate. We would have gone further with Goron had he not been hurt in the finals. I love Goron. I felt like he was cursed of never being able to maximize that true potential of that team because, unfortunately, Chris Bosh's blood clots. Because you got to remember what was stuck with. He had the remnants of him, Luol Deng, and did we get rid of Tyler Johnson at that time? I think so.
I think he was part of that.
He was part. Yeah, he was part of that, and he was part of the Hassan Whiteside. Horror.
There we go.
So that's what I talk about. Like, he was the best of a bad situation. He was perfectly representative. Heat culture. What's heat culture? Hard work ethic. We don't care what anybody says about us. We train hard. We work hard. We discipline our minds, and we punch you in the mouth. You know, we don't even punch you in the mouth. We punch you in the throat. That you know, a lot of teams have learned that lately in the NBA as of last year as well. Even though we've been doing it consistently. And I have gripes with it. And we got him into a trade, and then we extended him. And I think what he was on the hook for was like 4 years, 130 or 120 plus. So it's such an albatross of a contract to give somebody who is in his end of 30s. Normal play, like LeBron at 40 or 37, 38, 39, 40 is worth whatever you pay him. Kyle Lowry is not. And he's not going to say, I'm not going to tell you not to take the money. I'm not going to say there aren't parts where I liked you, but you were never doing it what I needed to do because his best attributes were always kind of barely going over double digits on the scoring drives and then getting half of a triple-double elsewhere.
Can't think of a
5 rebounds, maybe.
Kyle Lowry moment.
Because there really hasn't been.
Yeah.
Didn't really show up in the playoffs. You know, Tyler Hero went down and went to Caleb Martin, who got the spotlight that kind of came in, right? And bam, and everything. And it was Jimmy when Jimmy popped in, and then Jimmy ran out of gas because, you know, at some point Superman needs to take a break with all that kryptonite around him. And Kyle never kind of came into it. And I don't think he was a good defensive metric player, sure. But on a team that has 2 lockdown players in Jimmy and Bam, do we really need that in that situation? I'm not saying we don't go where we go without Kyle in the last couple of years, but it's not what I wanted. And remember, this all started to the Painmaker 2023 tour, right? It was coming to an end. We're going to do a year Charles Redux. You know, I don't want to shoot my shot like that because God knows something bad could happen. Like I could, you know, stub a toe. I'd be sad tomorrow. But I'm going to give myself some good praise here. But we went from wanting Dame, who's older, but it's Dame, right, to we got screwed over by Joe Cronin. Fuck you, Joe Cronin. 5. And you see what happens there. Portland Trailblazers are just bad.
I wanted to get through that. I wanted to have
it's
the
coming.
Connections.
I'll let you take that. I'm going to go from the points though. But my whole thing is, why is Kyle Lowry on my team? Every postseason and every beginning of the season, what did I send you? Why is this man on my team? Poor Francisco had to deal with that. When we have bad games, why is he on my team? And the last couple of games, he just wasn't doing it. And then Spo's just like, I'm just done with this guy. He goes, puts Nikola Jovic in there, playing the ball a little bit. Tyler Hero, putting more minutes with Jaime, who's doing some stuff. And it was just there because Spo is very militaristic, where if you don't suit a purpose that we brought you in, there's no need to have you, right? And Unfortunately, there is no next man up mentality because we literally, we got a point guard, but we should get a backup point guard as well. Just
Yeah.
saying. How's Gabe Vincent working out Lakers? He's hurt, poor guy. Struss is doing okay though in Cleveland. But to get Terry Rozier, who was the best player on a bad team, so it's like my Zach LaVine argument that's coming back and biting me in the ass. 7, which is fine, but
Yeah.
you look at the metrics. If they can go for the usage, I think the bigger point is I haven't seen Terry with a big injury history. He's only 29, and to be a point guard in that team, which you have Jimmy who can ball control, who likes the ball control a lot in the clutch moments, who has Bam who could sometimes just like pull it through and make that offense run through him, allows the opportunity because Terry Rozier's assists aren't that bad. I think he's averaging like 6.2 a game. So it allows Tyler to be off ball a little bit, to be pass and maybe shoot or drive in. Duncan Robinson's been doing good. Of course, he's not going to justify his contract, but the guy's in like his last year of it, so it's okay, or last 2. And he's 29, and it's very refreshing because 29, under 30, no health issues, could probably show up big, maybe in games if it's demanded, because there's always something happens. Jimmy got hurt. How many times he sprained his damn ankle? 8 in the playoffs, right? Coming into it. And if something happens to Bam, it's a breath of fresh air. And all it took, hear me out, because we haven't got to the sweet part of a happy day, was a 2027 first round pick and Kyle Lowry's contract, and we got a trade exception out of it to be utilized. And Pat Riley don't care about no first round picks. When he has to use it, he uses it and he just nails it on the head.
And
Bam, Tyler, and Jaime, right?
And the Heat have been kind of killing it in the second round lately as well with their drafting and their scouting in the G League.
Yeah. So it's just one of those things from like, guys, it just feels like everything is a win-win and you take it on empty because his contract for the next 3 years to go from $37 million, which you guys forget is a lot of money, to take it on Terry's contract as 23, 24, 25 mil, those 3 years out, has a lot of maneuverability, helps us with a tax luxury tax threshold. We have to decide what we're doing to certain people, but it could be a proper supplementation because I don't know how long Jimmy's going to go for. He could be that guy who plays until 37. You don't know. Maybe his production changes from being a scorer to just more defensive minded. There's teams that do it. He would probably be that guy. It would have to take a legitimate serious injury for him to really just stop because he's all go. But I'm happy with it because when we were trying to get Dame, what was it that was the proposed packages? Hero, Jovic, Jaime, couple first rounders, and you were really just going to
just basically basically everybody but Bam and Jimmy.
You were going to gut it out to take the minimum vets that would have to be available to fill in those holes. And trust me, would I want a Dame? Absolutely. But I'm done crying about that now. And the question is, you have to build around your best roster. And if you're going to get a guy who, of course, his usage and his percentages are going to go down lower because of what team he went to, whereas Charlotte is just him and then the walking 1 foot of the ball, of LaMelo Ball, right? I thought it was a great win.
Yeah. Because
it didn't rob the farm. And we didn't want and need a point guard to be the guy. We have 2 guys.
Right.
Possibly 3 with Tyler. I really want to see how that functions. He's a max contract player. Everybody's a max contract player because no one lets him walk these days, right? But we have the next guy. And Spo's going to figure out the rotation because the best thing that's going to come from this is if he needs Tyler to just do minutes on the second unit or maybe Terry to go to the second unit, that's going to be him to find out. And it's going to be amazing because I think that's what he was doing back in the day when he was managing the big 3 and he needed those couple of minutes of segments where it's like, all right, Bosh, you're going to be kind of like the lead guy in the second unit a little bit. And then we'll tailor it back. You have to figure it out because Spo hasn't generally utilized the game has not gone through heavy with him of a point guard for those LeBron eras. And then you had Goran, but, then you were in that very dilapidated roster, which was hell. And then, Wade was kind of carrying a little bit too. Wade leaves a little bit, but this gives an idea to kind of say everybody gets an opportunity. But it's not addition by subtraction, man. You know what it is? It's just it's playing with my favorite thing to say, house money. Because truthfully, you don't have anybody who has an injury history. You're not looking. We know he's not going to lead us to go on to a 20-minute win streak because that's a team effort. And the way that the second unit, especially how we do in the fourth quarter, we just die. So it's expected. But if it's just going to right the ship, third seed, 4th seed, that's right. No one's catching Boston. Maybe no one catches the Bucks. I like our chances because 3 through 8 is very packed. If we're doing this to avoid a playing game, because I hate playing games. Let me tell you guys why I hate playing games. As I talk about, it should be through 1 and 8. If y'all cry so much about 9 and 10s, you're gonna see how many of them are under 500. But it's gonna be really egregious when that 9 or 10 does knock out the 7 or 8, right? And you're really stuck with this underdeveloped team that's under 500 that's going to get swept in that first round. I think it's bad for business. Always have said it was bad for business. I believe bad for business, but one team doesn't make it and they cry about it. But happy day. Kyle Lowry, you have a better career as a Toronto Raptor, especially with your story. You were a Miami Heat guy, but I'm going to tell you right now, and I know he loves the Heat culture, knows of Jimmy. Jimmy don't hate me, but you were the bite-size Hassan Whiteside for me. Plain simple.
Oh boy. All right, so. Yeah.
Inflammatory. I'm sorry.
All right. And then we have the rest of the teams: Raptors, Nets, Hawks, Bulls. The Magic have actually had a pretty good season to, relatively speaking, compared to what they've had in the last decade. So there you go.
Well, they were a hard stool, and now they're a soft stool.
Pacers, then our Heat at 6. We'll see. They're playing the Grizzlies right now. The Knicks. The Cavs are on a heater right now, 8 games. The Sixers also, and Joel just dropped a bunch of points. And now the Bucks at number 2, and the Celtics at number 1. But the Bucks fired their head coach already after half a season.
I didn't know that. For whatever reason, I thought it was 1 year.
Yeah, no, it was half a season. Remember, Budenholzer was basically like, okay, I'm just going to not renew contract or anything like that, and they just kind of just parted ways. Like, okay, I got my ring, and now he's taking a break. He's nowhere really right now, so he's taking like a year off. Probably gonna look at his options going forward. But a guy like Doc Rivers, he's always ready to coach a team, and that didn't last long for him either, right? It was like half a season also.
Didn't we send a meme of Doc and how miserable he looked? I did, because I found it. I made it.
On ESPN?
He was with Doris Burke and Mike Breen.
Yeah.
It was great.
So he's back.
So much.
And the Bucks are going to go through the Doc Rivers experience. Damian Lillard is going to go through the
Would
Doc
you like
Rivers
to remind them what the Doc Rivers experience is?
Basically squandering talent, doing really great in the regular season, and squandering all of that goodwill and talent in the first and maybe second rounds of the playoffs.
By how? Blowing game 7s.
Yeah, losing game 7s, losing games, game 6s and 7s when you probably should have an opportunity to win with the talent that you've been given. But no, you got carried by one magical season by 3 guys. 3 Hall of Famers, even though one of them is actually really mid, in Paul Pierce. So there you go.
Paul
so they're
Pierce
gonna go
in
through
the
that.
shits. 10.
Yeah. So let's get back onto Boston a little bit with Paul Pierce. Paul Pierce, you are the most disrespected Hall of Famer of all time. Like, nobody respects you at all.
You rode the coattails with your 17 to 20 point per game in those playoffs, and you desperately needed 2 men, real men, just animals to get there. And then, of course, Rajon Rondo.
Yeah. So,
why does he hate Udonis for just keeping it real?
Because
isn't that what you wanted to be?
Udonis is actually about that life, and and Udonis has called him out about it. Because remember, he posts Paul Pierce posted oh, it was given, not earned, and then UD was like, oh, we could talk about this, but you ain't about that life. Now, remember, Paul Pierce
was stabbed.
Paul Pierce is a person that he's from Compton or South Central LA. But he's been called out by a lot of. He was shot too, right? Was he shot?
No, he was stabbed. And
he was stabbed. There you go.
Essentially, is bud, you would think after you've been stabbed, you would learn not to talk trash to somebody like Udonis Haslem. Yes. I'm pretty sure if Udonis didn't have basketball, he'd be running some kind of Fight Club gang because he's just so hardcore. I love him so much. I miss him.
Yeah, Udonis Haslam is.
I love him in Miller's OG podcast. I don't watch all of it. I watch snippets of it.
Yeah.
Follow those guys. Watch those guys. It's interesting. Generational torch handoffs for role players.
All respect to Bill Russell, but what the fuck does he got to hang up here?
Exactly.
That was great. But yeah,
you want role players who are actually interesting? Check those two out.
Yeah. So yeah, that was great. So yeah, that's a little thing about Paul Pierce and the Milwaukee Bucks. And yeah, the package that the Heat got for Terry Rozier, and then the package that the Portland Trailblazers got for Damian Lillard, and the little things that they did to try and get that together, and they've got a 12-31 record, Charles, 14th place in the Western Conference, only ahead of the Spurs, who are whatever, they're going through a rebuild. We know this, but they've got a generational talent that's there as well.
DeAndre Ayton. I'm just going to comment on something real quickly because Chauncey Billups is not a good coach. We said this when they hired him.
Yeah.
And it's been, 3 seasons to go forth with it. And I'm not saying DeAndre is going to be great or bad, but when you had good production in Phoenix and y'all scapegoat him because you don't want to say Devin Booker didn't handle the defensive metrics as well, and nor did Chris Paul, right? Just saying. I don't care about anybody else.
Yeah. Well, yeah, so the Blazers are terrible.
Poor Robert Williams tore his ACL.
Yeah.
Again, so he's out. I don't know if Scoot Henderson and all those other guys are doing well. Anthony Simmons and then Jeremiah Grant.
So this is also part of the year of the Charles as well, to see them continuously take
until Joe Cronin's fired.
L's after L's, not just on the court but off the court.
The only thing that will help me forgive Joe Cronin without firing is if I get this year with Scary Terry. Championship.
So then we got the Grizz. The Warriors are 18 and 22 right now. I'm not really paying attention at all to the Western Conference.
Yeah, it's West Coast, man.
Rockets, Jazz, Lakers, the Mavs.
The Lakers will figure it out, guys. Yeah. Stop complaining. They literally do this every year.
Yeah, well,
they're like Heat basketball on the West Coast. They're like, we'll just figure it out.
Yeah, they'll do enough to get into the play-in. The Mavs, the Kings, the Suns, because LeBron's just saving his body for the playoffs and trying to see if he can will his team through the rounds. Pelicans, Clippers, Nuggets, the Timberwolves.
Clippers doing well, man.
Yeah, Clippers, Nuggets, Timberwolves, and the Thunder. So there you go.
You talk about proper rebuilds with the Thunder, dude.
Yeah,
everything is just coming together. And the Timberwolves, it's so weird.
Second go around.
It's still so weird
too, with the core like that. We just drafted all these guys.
We just drafted all these guys, and we gave the proper extensions to the right guys.
Yeah,
and we told them they were valuable, and we hired the right coaches. And I'm like, my goodness.
Yeah.
The same thing's even said with the Timberwolves because aside from Rudy Gobert,
A-Rod buys
Anthony Edwards. Yeah, and can we talk about the disparity though? Kit Kat gets 62 and they lose.
Yeah,
isn't that the devil? Ugh.
Yeah,
and Joel Embiid with his 70. I don't care about 60s and 70s, guys. I really don't care anymore.
All right. Well, Charles, let's talk about something we do care about. So it's a word from our non-sponsors, people, places, things, concept, what have you, that we've been enjoying over the last month and a half, because it's been a while. And I feel like this should be a tag team.
Do you want to do 2 individual ones, or you just want to do the tag team rebirth? I'm cool with either.
I can't even think of another one that kind of stood out.
Let's just do the tag team.
Over the course of like this time frame, because I've just kind of been getting into this, Charles. So it's Alan Wake 2. Let's just get it out.
It's Alan Wake 2.
We're just gonna do it now. We just go right here. Me and Charles are fully immersed back into the Remedyverse. It's been a while. We haven't been here for a while. I've been slowly building myself into this. Played Alan Wake 1, the remastered version.
I played it in June when I had Corona.
Yep. American Nightmare, got through that. Played Quantum Break, got through that. Even played Death Rally, got through that too.
Yeah.
Like, just because everything ties into this. And just looking at lore videos, Charles, me sending you lore videos like, oh, Control and all this other stuff, and we're
Me
just
rewatching cutscenes from the games I played, and Quantum Break, which I have never played because I didn't have an Xbox at that time.
so Alan Wake 2. 13 years since Alan Wake was trapped in the dark place, and he needs to write his escape. He's been trying for 13 years. He tried in American Nightmare, it failed. He tried in Fortnite, it failed. He's tried Dead by Daylight, it's failed every time. It's just
He
not
technically
working.
tried and Control AWE.
Tried in Control as well. Just trying to get the message out there, and he's just going, looping and looping and looping. So he thinks. But somehow, some way, he needs somebody else to go into this, and it's a woman named Saga, and you see the depths of the structure of this world, this universe that Remedy Games, Sam Lake, that gorgeous Finnish man, have constructed.
Great hair. Great hair.
Great hair.
You and
Loves
Kojima
coffee.
just up there.
Loves coffee. Great shape. Like
Loves the Poets of the Fall.
multi-talented.
I love Poets of the Fall.
Actor, writer, director, right? And speaks at least 2 languages. Probably speaks the third one, I would think. And
Can you speak sexy?
yeah, probably. And
If sexy was a language, he created it.
yeah.
Forget your Tolkien Elvish, guys.
So where do we start with it? Do we start with the graphics, Charles? Do we start with the atmosphere? I mean,
I'll lead you a little bit, right? I'll lead you a little bit. My point. I knew of Alan Wake. I played Alan Wake 1 with my buddies because that was what was fun back then in 2008, 2009, right? I've played Remedy games before. Max Payne. I love the Max Payne series. 1 and 2. 3 was done by Rockstar. I understand, still a fantastic game. I played Control, and there was that big gap because I didn't play Quantum Break, and they had experienced certain things. But I remember playing Alan Wake 1 with the boys, and it was fine. I think it was, at that time, like a soft AS time, because the games back then, you made exceptions. It doesn't hold up. And then I played the remaster because I was always curious about it. I don't think we ever fully finished it. I didn't, at least, but I knew what happened because you Wikipedia stuff. But it was when I saw that trailer of him and the AWE with Control. I was like, we're going to do this. And then what sold me onto it, and I enjoyed Control thoroughly. I think it was my 2018 or 2019 game of the year. This is before I calendared it, but it was the best game of that year what I played on. And it was all coming together. And this game, when I saw the trailer and the gameplay and him bringing it back, I had this excitement. I sent it to you. I was like, Daddy, gonna hump? I think there's the exact words I said to you, and I had tried to encourage you on it. And then I bought the Alan Wake remaster, and I played it when I had Corona in June, and it was good enough, and I was gestating to it, and I was seeing how it was coming together. And then this game, and I'm gonna hand it off to you after this. What we'll start with is that it is what you guys hyped up. It is the gaming Infinity War. It is the gaming Avengers Endgame. It's not Grand Theft Auto, even though we think that. Those are side characters coming in. This is how you tell a full narrative that's going to bring people together. Well, Control 2 might be that. We'll call it the Infinity War for now. But it's a way of blending in a Remedy-verse for video games that makes you excited of not getting character interaction that are based off cheap cameos or doing all-star brawls or fighting a card game. Sorry, Mario. But it is, this is how we'll start with it. The vision and the direction of blending in between live action to 3D graphics to just like images of a TV scene or voiceover. It is anybody who likes entertainment and media as a medium.
Music.
That's what it felt like. And I played this almost exclusively with my SteelSeries Arctic Nova 7P Plus headphones for the ambiance, because we're going to break into this bitch. I'm telling you that right now. 10 or 11. I'm going to start with the vision of what he chose the direction as, because that's what enthralled me. Third-party character behind, and making it into all those blends of hybrid television gaming, VFX, and going into your own diving of it. And then the chutzpah, the sisu, right? The courage to switch between two playable characters. Because for some, it didn't work in games that had two playable main characters no one heard of before. See Last of Us 2. I like that game. I told, y'all, people who have their phobic fears need to chill. But, they work better of bringing in between Alan and Saga. So it was the vision and the conviction is the word I'm going to use. You're making this game so outside the norm. And that's what I like about Remedy games. And that's what I like about Sam Lake is that I play a game from them and it is not by the books. If anything, you're going to laugh, or maybe you'll be like, oh, shit. Alan Wake 1 was the most conventional game that they made, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, for structurally, from a gameplay perspective, it felt... Remember, I made my my list of game of the year, or not game of the year, my top 10 from last year, and I played 100 plus games last year. I beat 100 plus games last year, and I didn't have Alan Wake 1 as any of the top 10, or not even the honorable mentions. And I played it, but it's mainly because even though the remastered got pretty things up just a tiny bit, but not much in comparison, it was still very much like, this is an Xbox 360 game with very Xbox 360 mechanics. Yep. So that's kind of where I stood from that, and I hear you on that point.
And the fact is that they do their own gig and it works, and there's nothing that is copy and paste about it. And it's that vision, that direction, that conviction to just make a game that is that is so different than what you think a game should be. And that to me was that vision direction. That's how I'm starting it off. I'm gonna let you take the bit.
We've got some, and people have said this during the Game Awards or after the Game Awards. People are like, Sam Lake and Remedy are what they think Kojima is. Oh man, and that was
Kojima's
spicy.
Different.
It's different. I can't completely agree with it. But
I get it.
We definitely get it because we've played the Metal Gear games and Death Stranding and there's but
Kojima
I think it's a
wants to make
thing too.
Kojima wants to make cinema.
Thing.
Remedy wants to make a new neat
stories,
art house video gaming.
Right.
If anybody has seen an art house film, that's what I'm
literally
calling.
There was an art house film in the game.
Yeah. There was so much in that game. There was a concert. Multiple concerts.
Literally in the game. It was 20 minutes long. I watched the whole thing.
I called it Yotin Yo. I'm so stupid.
The wise, because I've been learning Finnish, Charles, for the last 3 weeks.
I can only handle my Argentinian accent so much, and I see that why, and then Grandma starts screaming in my head.
I've been learning because of Sam Lake and Remedy Games. I've been learning Finnish for the last 3 weeks since this year started. So I know that Y's are pronounced kind of like U's in a way, like Irtin I.
I'm telling you right now, when you post this, you have to add him and say our love for Sam Lake.
Yes. So, anyways,
he made a GIF, you guys. Well, you don't understand.
It's there's so much Finnish influence in this
lore as
and
well.
Even me just learning about Finland or the Finnish language for like 3 or 4 weeks now. I see how much of it's already. I'm just a hockey fan. That's the most I've known about Finland with regards to that. But man, this is something else. I mean, the audio was great. I switched to just the headphones with my
guys. We watched
Xbox.
interviews. I watched an hour and 15 of him and the guy from Insomniac about the game stuff. I haven't been this invested in a single developer in a long time.
Right. Yeah. And visually, I upgraded my PC.
He did.
I went from, all right, this is like mid-level piece, like Xbox One, PS4, Pro, whatever era, and I'm just like, nope, it's time. It's time to get the graphics card, upgrade the RAM, get the bigger SSD. So now I'm par with Charles now for the first time.
It's great, isn't it?
So yeah, it was fantastic. It was back to 60 frames, and it's also making me question my television. So, because I'm now wondering, man, what if I did play this in 120 FPS? So that's because my thing's locked at 60 at this point. But it was it forced me to upgrade my PC. It makes you think. The endings to this game make
Mm-hmm.
you think as to what is actually happening. Because
Mm-hmm.
the
So many
this is the other
theories.
thing about Remedy Games and Sam Lake and everything like that is that he studied to be a writer. He has a degree. Like he's built upon this, and obviously is built upon other influences, not just in Finnish culture but in other cultures. Right? He's like, oh, I'm watching True Detective now, and I'm like, oh man, do I have to watch this now because Sam watches it? Because and you see the lore videos on YouTube is Gaming University if anybody wants to follow that.
Yep, that's what I was watching for a lot of the control stuff to catch
Yeah,
up.
so they are
'Cause I have my theories,
doing
so
fantastic with all of those videos to kind of break down all this stuff, and also the fact that they are touching into other cultures, and I we spoke about this last time before we started playing this game about, oh, what could they do for future games. And it's like they've mentioned in Control about other AWEs, not just in the US but other places, just like urban legends, because that's basically what this game is about, is like
hmm
folklore, legends, myths, and things like that are kind of coming true. And it'd be cool to see, was it some cultural stuff from like, oh, here's freaking the screaming woman from like Mexico, whatever, that lore, stuff
yeah.
like that, like just like,
La Llorona.
yeah, the La Llorona, there we go, La Llorona, stuff like that, just like those mysteries would be cool to see. It'd be cool to see him and Kojima team up for a Japanese style lore thing with all like yokai and stuff like that. There's just so much that they can do now with a guy that might be a master of many worlds. You know what I mean?
Well,
So,
before we consider new games,
mm.
we have to consider the next game that is needed, or the expansions as well.
Yeah, so there's DLC that's coming through. I've got it at between 9 and 9.5, but I think the 9.5 will hit because most likely that DLC is going to tie into Control 2.
Yeah.
And
So,
that'll put us over the top.
so for me, if we're talking about ratings, just so people can get it, and then there's some stuff I want to pick at it a little bit more because we football's not gonna take too long, guys. I promise you. I I initially had it at, I felt the length a little bit, but that was sometimes the problems of because of the nature of the game as a horror game. You sit in and you do sessions and stuff like that. So I'm like, all right, guys, what are we doing here?
Mentally
And
taxing at points.
yeah, and I think that's where burnout comes in. I should have taken that break, but as lawyers, you only get so much time what you do stuff with, and you want to enjoy and get your dopamine and your serotonin. But I initially had it at the 9. I had questions, but and we're going to talk about why I put it as a 9.5. It'll probably scale down to a 9. I watched the true ending, so as anybody knows, if you do play it, we're not going to spoil, but you play through 1, and the new game plus, just like an old NES game or SNES game, has the proper ending.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw that, and I was like, yeah, 9.5 for me because of what the possibilities were, and just that final line got me a little erect. Just saying. And it is a thought-provoking game, and thought-provoking games, that's when you got something good, something that makes you scale it back without being on the nose, going there thinking about, wow, man, this just makes me think. And I've been thinking about
Yeah.
lines. I was rewatching lore. I've been thinking, so I can say this now, there's a lot of the lyrics in the chapter endings
Mm-hmm.
or in a certain thing. It's not just a retelling, but it actually kind of gives you the hint of what's happening. If you, no, not even foreshadowing. They'll tell you what's happening. You don't think about it. And I have been listening to the soundtracks. Post of the Fall of the Old Gods of Asgard. I've been listening to them since the Fall of Max Payne came out. They did the Lake Goodbye.
I mean, just think
Fools.
about the main musical song.
Yeah, well, that chapter, we're gonna trust me. We're gonna get on that.
Show me the champion of light. I'll show you the herald of darkness. And you think about how the twist of this game ties into those lyrics right there, because you might be looking at the same thing.
And that's what I felt about this game, thought provoking. It was an intelligent game that gave you the hints of what was going to happen, but it was also saying, oh, but maybe that actually doesn't happen, depending on your playthrough, without going into spoilers. But I thought I had it figured out. And then a curveball came in real fast, and I'm like, whoa. And then I'm like, but here we go. And then another curveball came in fast, but then it brought me back to the original theory. And depending on your playthrough, and that's why I told you, I think going to Saga, without going into certain details, going to Saga and seeing it out is the better choice for the genre of game. And they mention that a lot. And I will give, it's not a spoiler, but it's a statement. It's written as a genre of horror, so it has to keep within the rules of the genre of horror. So I think doing it the way that we did it kept it to genre horror, because I don't know if I got to Alan's game point, then Saga's thing, what led to her end game, would mean nothing to me.
Right.
Of the first time encounter is how I'm saying it.
You said, because you said your friend had played it before any of us.
Yeah, and he just
he basically went with one and only one, and then did the other and only the other. Yeah, and I understood why you told me do it this way, because that payoff when it happened, I'm like, wait a second, and I'm like, and then there it is. I'm like, okay, I understood why you told me to do it that way, and obviously they give you the choice of it, but if you're looking at strategy guides and stuff like that, I think people would come to our conclusion is like, this is probably the optimal way to do this.
Because it's in the confines of horrors.
Yeah, and it was, people think about the horror. This game isn't horror in the sense of, oh, this is grotesque and this whatever. I mean, yeah, it's got blood, it's got all that stuff and everything like that.
I mean, but you have naked fat men. Just saying.
Right, that's the way the game starts. But I'm saying that it plays with your head, and it really goes into like the psyche of, the worst of yourself in your own mind. You can be your own worst enemy in your own mind. And someone who's gone through, you two as well, their own troubles mentally, like, you start looping and looping and looping, and it feels like you can't get out of it, and you start going crazy, you start doubting yourself, and then you suddenly, like,
so you felt an emotional connection to a character,
exactly,
which is another thing that's very rare
in video games, especially.
I love Mario games. I ain't Italian with a mustache and a plumber.
Princess Peach might get you though this year. She might.
Yeah, right.
She's got some character.
I ain't Zelda because I ain't no mute. I talk a lot, too much.
Yeah, that's why people connect with Luigi a lot, because he actually has some actual emotion in his games.
And to steal on that, the concern of it's an Alan Wake game, but you're playing a good portion as somebody else. Saga's a great character. Yeah. She's quirky, intelligent. There's some stuff about her, has an interesting kind of concept. She doesn't fall into the tropes that Alan falls, because she is diametrically different.
Yeah. And if you watch some of the lore videos as to why that was a good choice of a character, you'll see why. And it also opens up possibilities for future games that, they're all going to be in a future game. If I have it my way. I'm just saying, but, she doesn't have to be tied to Alan anymore, because I think she's kind of,
Oh, I have a theory, and I'll tell you off the show.
Alrighty, so that's our. We're here at an hour and 25 minutes. I think we could keep talking about this game, but we just basically saying, go play this now.
We need a Control 3. Right. I'm sorry, we need Alan Wake. Do we?
Epic Games still has the deal where, if on PC at least, where if you buy Alan Wake 2, you get Alan Wake 1 for free, so you can kind of get a bit of the storyline, but it's a overarching thing. And there might be some possibilities that there's Max Payne remakes, and maybe Rockstar can play a little bit with that too. You never know. And Quantum Break's still not out of the question, because I have some theories as well that we could talk about off the show. So,
promo code for you on this?
Oh yeah, Sisu.
All right, promo code for me, Champion of Light.
Yeah.
The one thing I'm gonna hype up, that entire soundtrack from the episode songs, fantastic. Whether it be the whatever the old gods of Asgard is classified as, I think it's not post rock music, but it's like it's what they call metal, but it's not metal, because damn, I was listening to the other how they categorize everything. I'm too simplistic, but it's a good blend. But even like the chapter songs, the soundtrack's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's a good listen. You accomplish so much.
Some of them were also co-written with Sam Lake, so he's, once again, multi-talented man, husband, Finnish husband. Okay, Hour 20.
Power metal.
Power
That's
metal.
what's
There we go.
defined
That's
as.
Hour 27, Charles. Let's see. So we talked about baseball and hockey and basketball and Alan Wake. And, there's football. We want to jump into football. Are we here yet? Because we still have some. Let's get into it, right?
Let's do it.
So, NFL playoffs. I don't care about college football.
Yeah, Jim Harbaugh won, and after he won, he left his team. Now he's the head coach of Chargers. There you go.
All right. I don't care about college football. They denied the Seminoles. Whatever. Next year will be fixed when they expanded playoffs. Nick Saban retired. All right. Cool.
No, sure, whatever.
Right. Fantastic.
The team who got lost the game, their coach is now the coach of the Tide. There you go.
All right. Now, NFL playoffs. So there's a lot of narratives running around, but there's a very large narrative, a little story that I've been writing, Charles. I've been writing this story for quite a while.
And it wasn't a loop for you. It was definitely a spiral.
Oh, well, it might be a loop for some people out there. But it is a spiral because it seems to be the same thing and just a little bit different, but it always ends up the same, and they kind of go back around and around and around. Maybe there's an end to it. It just hasn't happened in 50 years. All right, so let me get this on the screen. I need to see these the bracket here for the NFL playoffs. So we're at the championship games, the AFC and NFC championship games. We're down to just 4 more teams, and it's been some surprises actually going with it. Let's see, NFL scores. There we go. That's what I want to see. Just want to put her up on the screen here so we kind of see where we've been, how we got here. So NFL regular season ended, and we had several teams make the playoffs. NFL wildcard round. Let's talk about the games that, all right. So the Cleveland Browns and the Houston Texans.
Nah.
45 to
we fell in love with Joe Flacco. That's what happened.
Yeah, that's true. But C.J. Stroud is somebody we all should be falling in love with as well.
Yeah,
and it was really nice to see the Texans. I don't know. They found a way to rebuild because they found the right guy. So there you go. Way to go, Lovie Smith. Sheesh, man.
Right.
Fantastic. Integrity. Stood up for yourself. And look, it still ended up well for the Texans. Oh,
it's like he was a double agent and just didn't know he was playing for your side.
Yeah.
That's what happened.
Maybe someone was writing his story, just didn't realize.
He was the Severus Snape of football coaching.
There you go.
Oh, I hate you, Potter, but I loved your mother. And
All
I love
right.
this great town of Houston.
The Detroit Lions sneaking through 24-23 against Matt Stafford. Dan Campbell.
That was a pretty good game.
Yeah, very close, but very beloved. For the first time in a while, the Lions. Great story. Probably one of the best.
There's like wrestling narratives there.
Yeah. The Bills beat the Steelers.
Yeah.
And then the Bucks upset the Eagles. 32-9.
Baker redemption story.
Yeah. So there's the other big story, the other upset here that stood out to a lot of people. The Cowboys. And the year the Charles Redux strikes again this time, Charles, because a certain Packers quarterback replacing another one, Jordan Love, has arrived. The Packers have done it without Aaron Rodgers.
He did more in his first year as a starter than Aaron Rodgers did.
There you go. It's happened. So echoes as well, for the NFC North fans. Also the same thing with the Packers. Oh, now they got a third generational quarterback. Would you look?
I just think of Jesse from Breaking Bad. How do they keep getting away with it?
There you go. But here we go, Charles. The Kansas City Chiefs have defeated the Miami Dolphins, 26-7.
I was watching that game, and I felt your pain. Well, not you. There's a small part of you. Let's. Here's the thing, what you need to understand about this man right here. He loves his Miami Dolphins.
Maybe,
but he doesn't buy into the hype. because he understands that shit covered in gold is still shit 13th altogether. And he's a realist, and there is no moral victories. He was amongst me when Mike McDaniel was hired. Like, okay, he's quirky and eccentric, but does that mean he's a good coach? He was not onto a bandwagon, but all he wanted was consistency. You know, he wanted, but there's a small person who was part of that fandom, because if not, he would have left that fandom. He would have left that fandom a long time ago, and he just couldn't buy into this narrative. I'm writing you the story. I'm giving you your prologue for these people because we were off for a bit. I'm doing it from a different voice. You know, he was there. He was watching. He was like, oh, they're doing too good, but soon they'll see. Ha-ha! Soon they'll see. And how true you were, because there's what happens when you go on preseason hype and regular season hype versus the strongest P word besides powerful, proven. And the Kansas City Chiefs are proven.
Yes.
Take it away, Francisco.
Well, it was building up, Charles, because I saw everything. Dolphins scored 70 on the Broncos. Everything was going great, hunky dory, but you know, certain losses that people kept making excuses for.
Oh,
they lost to the Bills. They lost to the Chiefs. What else did they lose to? Did they lose the Niners this year? I don't know. They lost to the Ravens, right?
They lost to the Titans. We broke your spirit.
Well, that was the game that should have indicated to everybody what my thoughts were from the beginning. And I have never wavered on this. I haven't wavered on this for years, Charles. Talk about being stuck in a dark place. I see it. I'm a seer, Charles. I see through all these
real
lies.
quickly, because I didn't want to steal too much time for this, but because we came back to it, we talked about Year of the Charles redo. You mentioned Titans. Mike Vrabel got fired. I'm so happy.
Yeah.
I was done with him last year. Did I not say fire him? I'm the only person. Go ahead. Continue.
So, Dolphins lose to the Titans in embarrassing fashion because they had that game locked. Or they should have had the game locked. But the Titans showed a little bit of Sisu as well, Charles.
That's what we're known for.
Little bit left that they had, and they scored twice within the span of like 3 minutes and won that game. And suddenly, the Dolphins had to go, and they played the Cowboys Christmas Eve in Miami, and they barely won on a field goal at the end of the game. And we all just, now in hindsight, people are realizing that that was a mid-off. That was the fraud bowl of all fraud bowls this season. That was it. I was not convinced. I told you, Charles, when that field goal went up, I wrote to you, I didn't realize the Cowboys were that mid. Well, Dolphins go to Baltimore. They're supposed to win that game. They can lock down the division. The Bills are nipping at their heels, and they lose 56-19. Smacked. Absolutely smacked by the Ravens. Sets up final game of the season in Miami. No excuses, all right? They're not in the cold weather. They're in Miami. Of course, they don't have the blazing sun that they like to use against teams in the first month of the season, month and a half. But it's a night game. Oh, okay, fine. So now the Bills are playing basically a neutral territory now. Bills fans travel well as well. And it might as well have just been in the dome. Dolphins have lost all sort of home field advantage, but it's all facade anyways. Bills win the game. They clinch the division, force the Miami Dolphins from having a home playoff game in Miami in their own element, not in the freezing cold anywhere. They have to go to Kansas City in negative 30-degree weather. And people wondering, oh, whatever. And people saying, oh, the run game's going to play a lot in this one, you know. And the Dolphins have a really good run game and all sort of stuff. Making they're like, all right, this is going to be closer than we thought. You know, even a guy like Mahomes will be neutralized by the cold.
He has no receivers.
He has no receivers. You know, we got Tua. We got Tyreek. I've been saying Tua ain't it for years, Charles. You're telling me the King Hawaiian Bun is going to win in KC in that weather? Nah. Nah. Mm-mm. Vic Fangio, the defensive coordinator who basically they mutually parted ways because apparently the Dolphins players, the defense didn't like him, but that was a whole highly touted thing before the season. We got Vic Fangio. Oh, let's go. There's going to be an elite defense. Where was that elite defense putting up 26 points in the freezing cold? Where was that elite defense against the Baltimore Ravens? Where's any of that, Charles? Where'd that elite offense go?
When Will Levis was coming back and winning.
Where'd that creativity Mike McDaniels had weeks ago? That seems to have
motion screens and drag routes don't matter to you.
And Tyreek just gets hobbled a little bit, and suddenly everything's siphoned away. House of Cards,
would have
Charles.
been the first wide receiver MVP.
What, hey, Tua survived the season. Hey, look at that. He survived the season. Great job.
Congrats. Now you got to pay him big money.
Yeah, and that's the big question as well. Is it time to pay Tua? I hope they do. I hope the Dolphins get locked into this loop. I want this to be a loop and not a spiral, Charles, because there's been
Would
no
he
ascension.
be your first round draft pick that you're actually extended? Because that's where you get a little bit out of way of the loop. Because you
Ryan
didn't do it for
Tannehill,
Henny.
right? I think Ryan Tannehill was also.
Did he?
Yeah,
you did, because you gave him the 100.
Yeah.
And I think it was by luxury because it was because he only went to the playoffs once with you guys, and I think he got hurt.
Sorry, he didn't even play.
Yeah, and you didn't. It was you were too high in the draft order to get something good because I remember it was bad crops, and then you just traded him away for a 7th round pick to us. Hey,
yeah, he got picked like 13th or something.
Yeah.
So this is great. It was seeing the dejectedness of Dolphins fans on Twitter was fantastic.
7 points because everybody made the narrative about you still have to play the game. You still have to play the game.
Mm-hmm. Not against that team. They were like, the Chiefs, they've been weaker this year, but Chiefs defense has been really great this year. That's actually been the X factor for them to kind of, get through all these offensive struggles but now look at what's going on. The Chiefs have finally turned it back on. The offense turned it back on midway through that game against the Bills. Hey, they're suddenly back. and they have to
they're basically telling you regular season doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And I love that. Because
9-6, good enough to win the West. That's all they needed to do was just win the division, do the bare minimum, get a home playoff game, maybe get a second one, and look at that. They basically did what they were supposed to do, and now they're back in the championship game against Baltimore. That's going to be a good game.
They took two quarterbacks who were in the top 3 of leading touchdowns in totality.
Yeah.
And they held them both to just 5 yards of passing and under 200 yards.
So
they had star receivers on that defense of Diggs and Waddle and Hill.
Yeah.
And they got them to do nothing.
Yep.
If that doesn't scare you, Baltimore, just saying.
It was, but just for me, it was the culmination of the year of Francisco. Mm-hmm. It really was. All this other stuff is just a little extra.
And your year ended when we got rid of you played Alan Wake and we got rid of Kyle Lowry. That we did the proper handoff.
So this was great.
Andrew can get 2025.
I think this was the year that a lot of Dolphins fans really they finally saw what I saw. They're finally seeing it for the first time. There was actual dejectedness. People saying, I've been going through this for years since I was a kid. People just realizing that how much they've been in this loop, Charles. In this loop of hype, then ultimate failure, and nothing getting done right. They can't get the right coach, the right quarterback, the right coordinators. They've had with Chris Greer, the right GM, right? They've had 4 or 5 different offensive and defensive coordinators in the last 6-7 years. They keep changing it. They can't figure it out, and it's making me laugh. It's making me laugh when people don't realize that the real teams they should be following and be diehard fans of, are not playing at Hard Rock Stadium. So it's great, man. That was fantastic. I got off. Oh, I got off. Man. Yeah, that's the NFL playoffs. That's all I could say. We're at an hour 42, Charles. And I don't know if you want to talk about your Titans. You did talk about the coach changing, and you got the new guy
Not
now.
we got Brian Callahan. I'm fine with it because even though some of my friends were like, well, he didn't actually call the plays in Cincinnati. I'm like, Mike McDaniel didn't call the plays in Miami, and he was considered coach of the year until they stalled out.
Mm-hmm.
I'm happy for it because we're bringing up somebody who is part of the modern day trend. Whether or not you think Will Levis is the future, Will Levis is the present, right? He's under there. So is Malik Willis. Tanner will be gone. We got to draft linemen. We got to draft receivers. If y'all really love Vrabel, that's fine. And a lot of people were saying, oh, but John Robinson and stuff like that. I was advocating for both of them to be gone because this archaic, old school way that a lot of defensive coaches and players that end up becoming coaches have. Whereas, you can't get a D'Amico Ryans who was just like, he should be coach of the year, who just gave you this hybrid of like, let's just get the best kind of offense and the best kind of defense and forget, and use the practices of how we made great Hall of Fame players that I played around with and was associated with and build off of that. But
do you think
Vrabel, he got us to the AFC title game.
Mm-hmm.
I think you guys forget he did open up the playbook here. He ran on Baltimore like 50 times with Henry. And then, the defense crumbled a little bit. And then, the Cincinnati playoff game we lost because Tannehill screwed up, but we sacked Burrow all the time. And I get that too. But the last 2 seasons, sometimes coaches have to work and elevate the talent that they have than they don't have. And I think people will kind of make that argument about like, oh, this isn't fault for the bad roster. People have been making the same argument when the roster is fair versus the roster has overpaid people and they can't collect. Right, other places be position fit, so you work with the 5, 6, and 7 draft round picks. I'm fine with it. Vrabel will get a job again. He's not going to win a Super Bowl. I don't know, but he could probably go to Atlanta and do that. I don't care. I am sick. It is a loop, or we're spiraling up. I had Jeff Fisher, who had the same run the ball and tight defense offense. Right, produce a 2,000-yard rusher at some point. If memory serves, because he has CJ. And then we had him gone, and then we get Mike Munchak, former offensive lineman. Run the ball, maybe open the pass lanes, defense. Try to push it through there. Gone because he didn't want to fire any of his people. Then we get Ken Wisenhunt. Gone after 2 seasons, like a season and a half, man. And they get Mike Mularkey. Run the ball, do something with it, play defense. Don't worry about the opening pass in the game. That's when we have Mariota. Then we get Vrabel. Run the ball, 2,000-yard rushing, defense. Try not to turn over the quarterback. Now I'm going to get somebody who says, you know what? 5 receiver spread isn't a bad idea in a shotgun formation. We're not going to do wildcat with, the quarterback going in there. Derrick Henry's going to be gone. Fine, let him go. He should go to the Cowboys. Andrew and his sex like Cowboys contenders. Here's the definition of a contender. If they're a missing piece or a team that's consistently there. They're foolish for keeping Mike McCarthy. Because I was in the chat of like, they get in their own way by their own coaching, so he gets out there.
But Belichick, sitting there.
With the style of play that man plays in as a running back, there's not a lot of people in that offensive that.
He said Miami. You said Miami too.
I did say Miami as well. Whether or not they could afford him now with some of the contracts, because I'll tell you right now, Derrick Henry is worth $12 million because he had.
They don't have to pay Tua right now.
They're going to find a way, and then you have to talk about Waddle. Did Waddle sign an extension, or has he not done it yet?
I have no idea. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's the hard part. But that's all I'm going to say about that. On the Times is I'm just happy for it. And then with the other games, I think this has been a very boring playoffs. I don't really need to reiterate stuff. But between Kansas City and Baltimore,
the narratives are fun.
Game. Well, in the beginning of the year, I think I said Niners Ravens, as did many people. But that's being an objective person. I personally would love Ravens Lions. Coming out of it because. You kind of want Detroit to do it, not just because of the Dan Campbell experience, but it's also the concept of a narrative that sometimes a number 1 pick in the draft can still be a number 1 quarterback elsewhere. And you're going to get a lot of number 1s who are no longer there, Goff being that guy. And
even Lamar had all the question marks when he got drafted.
Yeah, but Goff got unceremoniously sent out for Stafford, and it worked
Mm.
for the Rams. Now let's see if it works for the Lions, and it has so far. But with Lamar, him winning is I always like Lamar. You always like Lamar. I remember having seen him play in Louisville, but a lot of people who is not quarterbacky, that was a trend on the Twitter,
Mm.
that came around a lot, or X, I'll call it the Twitter. But Lamar was just amazing to me, and the last couple of years, Harbaugh got in his own way. And then they never really surrounded him with the right kind of guys as receivers. And this year, look, even the receivers that they have now are not amazing. I think Zay Flowers can be great. Beckham, it's debatable. I think he's still a shell of himself, but he can be consistent. And they've also been snake bitten with they can never have J.K. Dobbins healthy. But that defense is, murderer's row between Roquan Smith, Patrick Queen, Jadeveon Clowney's even on there. It is nasty. And you know what? If Kansas City goes and wins it, my thoughts on it is fantastic because, to be torchbearer to what a brilliant head coach that Andy Reid is, and then what a brilliant quarterback is, prepare yourselves. You might hate it. Good, likable teams, right? We started the show on that, on the concept, as long as you're good, it doesn't matter. And I think you guys hate the whole Taylor Swift shit. 14, it doesn't bother me. Just don't watch the game if you want to, but it's not like she's out there influencing. Like you guys did this to Jessica Simpson and Tony Romo. I think you just don't like women in the spotlight in a sport that is predominantly focused on men. Just saying, get over yourselves. And then if the Niners win, that just means that one, Purdy did do what he had to do. I had misgivings
it'd be the
on
first
him.
for Kyle Shanahan to, because everybody's kind of been deeming him like, oh, it's whatever, to give him all the praise, but he hasn't really done the thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, getting to the Super Bowl
failed
was
to
doing
do
the
the
thing.
thing with the Falcons because that was under his watch. So
Yeah, well, the thing is, he also did get to the Super Bowl with Jimmy G. I do consider getting to the Super Bowl meaning something. Whether you win or not, someone's got to lose. The whole
okay.
thing about Brock Purdy is I don't like the concept that if he did produce 30 touchdowns, he is a very good player. The best of all time, I don't know, right? But it's going to create a bad trend setting for a lot of teams who are going to try to go beyond the second round to get
Yeah.
quarterbacks. And you have to have a little bit of everything, and then you have to learn how to marginalize positions in other areas of expertise aside from the quarterback, because for every Stafford is the Hall of Very. If he concludes the next 3 years, he's Hall of Fame. In my opinion, he's got a Super Bowl ring and everything, but he was never MVP or anything like that. But we're always looking. There is a consequence in collateral damage of looking for the Bradys and now looking for the Purdys. Because I had Malik Willis in the third round, didn't get us anywhere. You guys tried Chad Henne in second or third when he was coming out of Michigan.
Yeah.
Didn't get you guys anywhere coming into it. It means that you need better scouting. You're supposed to scout these guys. What it does mean is that you should scout for better backups. Because remember, Brock Purdy, let's be real about this, was not drafted to be the starting quarterback of the San Francisco 49ers. That's the truth.
Yeah.
It was Trey
True.
Lance. Jimmy
True.
G was already on there. That's the idea of good scouting, is to put you there to the next man up. And if they grow into being a starter, Brad Johnson did it, Trent Dilfer did it. Those are guys who want it. And if he's going to be the best of that, that's fine. This is just what I'm looking at objectively now. But if they win that narrative, it's the idea that, one, it's going to put more former players into executive positions, because I don't think anyone's talking about the greatness that John Lynch has done for the most part. And it should open up access, because I do think operations and analytics should be in those positions, should be opened up more to former players who understand the game. Don't forget John Lynch was a safety for the Bucks and then to a degree for the Broncos. And then two is the idea that what you love about the Niners, what you should love about the Niners if you're a player that's not a quarterback, is that they pay you because they understand your roles and they understand that you're important. They have Javon Hargrave that just got free money out of free agency. They paid Debo. They're going to pay Brandon Ayuk, allegedly. They paid Christian McCaffrey, and they kept it consistent. Is that, you reward the best players. You don't try to screw them around. There's narratives all around here that's pleasant to deal with, as opposed to what we've had in other Super Bowls, is what I would say.
Yeah.
So that's just my little, apparently long tangent on it.
Alrighty.
A
Okay.
rangent. That's a new word I'm creating.
An hour and 51 minutes, Charles. We got through all the sports. We got all through the stuff. We talked about Alan Wake. You know what? Let me build you into this as well. So, we're at the year of the Charles Redux, and if there's one thing Charles loves, it's big, sweaty, giant men smacking each other and just kind of pushing their bodies into each other and just flipping over and doing all
and
kinds
big
of crazy
sweaty
things
and big sweaty women.
yeah, big sweaty and all that stuff and creating a soap opera with all of that athleticism and even cheesiness as well. And Charles is been a avid fan of wrestling for such a long time that but some part of that is going to the big wrestling events, right? And just like for anybody that for me as a hockey fan, I got to see a Stanley Cup Finals game. And for Charles, I believe this is his first one, right? This is number one, the first one of one of the big events in the wrestling.
This is my first
world.
pay-per-view.
The first one. And he will be off to Tropicana Field in St. Petersburg, home of the Rays until they move to Montreal. And he's going to see a Royal Rumble of sorts. And he has been building up to this for quite a while. We've heard about this months ago. Right? He bought his tickets a while ago. He has been building up. We started this episode this week just because I wanted to hear the big beefy Royal Rumble preview. And we are finally here. There's probably some other wrestling news that he wants to talk about as well through the month and a half. I think that, this is the run up, right, Charles? We're going to get the run up to WrestleMania as well. And so it's going to be very interesting because not only are we going to get his previews, his thoughts, his predictions, and things that he wants to see, things that will get him off on Saturday in Tropicana Field, but we'll finally get to hear his thoughts next week and see how he got off. So the year of the Charles Redux, he's writing his story right now. We're going to see how much of it actually comes true. So let's head into the cage.
Welcome, everybody. Your weekly Truplex returning with a very special Royal edition. Now, remember, wrestling is not fake. It's scripted. It's a stage fight. It's a song and dance. It's about men and women beating the holy hell out of each other, chasing championships, establishing legacies, trying to get on that pillar of Mount Rushmore, right? It plays off its poetry motion. Ballet, despite the fact that some old wrestlers say it's not ballet. I can call it whatever I want. It's my gig. It's my portion. You want to talk about it, pay me money, and I'll do whatever you want me to do. Now the new edition is like it's just about trying to get my money as well. But it's the Royal Rumble coming in. We're going to hit some highlights of, and we're going to do blips. There was a small portion about New Japan AEW I will get on. I can really keep that to
There was a guy that left, right? A very big wrestler.
Yeah, it's kind of tough. So let's go with AEW because next week I think I can butter it a little bit better. But AEW, some things happened. Pay-per-views change. MJF is no longer your champion. Samoa Joe is now your AEW World Champion. Your boy is all about it. We love Samoa Joe. Loved him in
another big
TNA
beefy
Impact. Man. Very big Samoan beefy man. Samoans just rule the wrestling world, but this is a Samoan.
Don't rule the football world though.
Yeah, right. Samoan is not someone I would fuck with. With Samoa Joe, 15. I've always loved him. He is just talented. He's all check boxes to me on a wrestler. Good on the mic, good in the match, knows how to understand the character, complete badass, super chill, loves games. Used to love him on up, down, down. He's big into the fighting games. I guess Street Fighter that he loves. Please forgive me, Joe. I'm sorry, I love you. Real cool clips of him Wale Mania. He is voicing King Shark at Justice League Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, whatever that game's coming out. That is next month, I believe. He was what is it? Sweet Tooth and Twisted Metal, the TV show that was on Peacock that I have not seen.
Yeah.
Okay. He's just all talented. He is 20 plus years into the business. You look at him, it's about. I love it for him. It shouldn't be a long reign. I think it should end that revolution between him, Hangman Page, and Swerve Strickland in a triple threat. And I think Swerve should win that, but that's good. We'll just run down the champions and just kind of talk about what we're doing. We'll add on to certain things next week. Christian Cage, TNT Championship. It's good. It's good going far. His matches with Copeland, who was formerly known as Edge, were fine. things happened, all this other stuff. He's been retaining it. He's having a good time. He's making that title prestigious, but Joe's going to come around and do a lot of business with it. But good on him for that. And this is, I'm going to put this as a disclaimer. We're only talking about the AEW championships. We're not talking about the Ring of Honor championships because there's so much intermingling that happens with it. What I will say is the side note of it is that you have, I did forget to mention this, is that, how MJF was taunted by the devil? It was Adam Cole and, the boys, Kingdom and part of the Undisputed Era that was in there. Well, it wasn't the Undisputed Era anymore, but Kingdom and Wardlow. And then, Roddy was undisputed. So it happened. It was predicted. It was on the nose. They dried down too long. Let's just be done with it. Samoa Joe cleanses our palates. Go from there. Women's AEW Championship is still Toni Storm. Her shtick is funny. They have Myra May, who I've sent you in the Twitter, and he loves you, Myra. Go talk to him. He's a handsome Hispanic man. Follow him on the Twitter. Follow her on the Twitter. She's cool. She's funny. Good wrestler from Stardom. She just got signed. But Toni Storm, also from Stardom, also from WWE World. Does a lot of good stuff in there, and she's an interesting character coming to it. Tag team champions, Big Bill and Ricky Starks. I like them. I feel like they're in the Jericho vortex a little bit, as people call it on the Twitter, but we'll see what happens there. Julie Hart's a TBS champion, companioning up with Sky Blue. Now looks like Sky Black because she's changed her hair and her color. It's no longer as blue. I don't really know what's going on with that storyline. I'm not going to lie. They pop in and out. The Acclaimed, they're the AEW Trio champions. Maybe they're going to go against Bullet Cup Gold. The storyline is now they're the Bang Bang Scissor Gang. I'll explain that going from there. State of AEW, since we took off the break, it comes and goes. It's on right now. I like a little bit of everything because you got to understand, wrestling is not like football where you're just stuck watching one product, right? It's not what happens if someone gets washed out and they go elsewhere. You don't go watch the United Football League. Sorry, Rock. Sorry, but it's not going to happen. But with wrestling, you can follow wrestlers, you can look into new promotions. Everybody's going to have a different style.
That's what I was going to say. Like, from what I've learned over the course of these years now that we've been doing this show, which is in its final season, before we that's the other thing I forgot to announce at the beginning of this, is that there's, I guess, certain different flavors, right? Different flavors of wrestling.
Think of it as kinds of pizzas, or I think a more appropriate reaction, because we're talking about storytelling, comic book storylines with different writers or different artists. Okay. If you read comics, you can have the same writer, but different artistic styles can affect your product. But you might like, a Francisco Francavilla. I believe that's how you say him. I like him. He's done some stuff that I like Batman, Black Miller, or you can go to Black Mirror, because I'm thinking Frank Miller as my next step up, where you might like some things that he's created, drawn, or you can go with Jason Aaron as a comic book writer, or you can go with Charles Soule, I think he's still a current lawyer doing immigration. Cool stuff, man. You can get that variety, and then there's the guy who did Spawn, and now I can't believe it's like stuff off the top of your head, but you never thought you'd be talking about podcast.
Todd McFarlane. There you go.
Not Todd McFarlane for Spawn. I'm talking about the who, and I had him sign one of the things. One of the artists that were out there. It's gonna get me. It's gonna get me. But I can't lose my train of thought. But it's the variety of how the products can, with the same characters, but have different visions in there. But are they a little bit of downcline? Sure. Are they gonna get better? Yeah. Every wrestling company has peaks and valleys. I'll tell you right now, when it comes to Royal Rumble, spoiler, I had set my expectations really low so I don't get disappointed, because sometimes it's about what they're giving you. But AEW is fine. Impact has been rebranded as TNA. That was their original thing, so they're coming back on with it. Moose is now the champion. I haven't looked at the full statistics, so I'm not going to go on every single person, but that's something to keep an eye on. They have good talent in there. I just hope they can get a deal for the television streaming rights to really be out there. New Japan, let's get to it. Kazuchika Okada is leaving, and it came out of nowhere, and everybody was shocked. His contract is expiring, and he's not re-signing with them. And now you talk about the bidding war of 2024 really goes on. The Rainmaker, the guy who is their Hulk Hogan, John Cena,
Otani.
I can't say Otani because Otani hasn't won championships.
Okay. Okay.
Undefeated, had great reigns, had a great history. Kenny Omega and Tetsuya Naito. He lost at Wrestle Kingdom. Naito won the championship at Wrestle Kingdom, but Okada won against Bryan Danielson, because he used to be Daniel Bryan, but I have to make sure the dead names stay dead, right? They have their own characters that bring into it. And in the second match, and he beat Danielson, which I think I sent it to you guys. So sometimes I send you guys stuff if it's full matches, not because I want you guys to watch it, but because I need a link to rewatch it because I go through too much Twitter stuff and I don't bookmark anything. I don't want to deal with the bookmarks, you know what I mean? So he's a talent, man. He's really good. He might not be everybody's cup of tea, and wherever he goes, he might have to adapt his style. And you don't know his motivations. Maybe he wants a lot more money because the American scene in wrestling might be different in Japan, vice versa. But it is a monumental shift. In the modern day times, it is as if, Kenny Omega said, hey, I'm not going to go renew an AEW. Maybe it's like Cody saying, I'm not going to renew my contract at AEW. I'm a free agent. Or if Roman Reigns just let it go and say, I don't want to be WWE anymore. It could be equivalent of Kurt Angle heading out when he didn't want to be in WWE and shows up Impact. So the question is, where does he go? I think he would go to AEW. His boys are there. I know Tony Khan's going to throw money at him. Today was his last match, and he's vacated his never openweight 6-man tag team championship, which I never got because he can't be six men are not holding. So there's 3 guys. They're just defending against number 3 guys. But logistics, right? Who am I? I have a Florida education. I don't know anything about math. But he was very emotional, and I love the internet and Twitter when it comes to wrestling because there's nobody who's more dramatic than the internet when it comes to Twitter when it comes to wrestling. The IWC, Internet Wrestling Community. It was like that when they thought the WWE was going to be sold to all these people and ends up being sold to TKO, which was a merger with UFC. It's about people's injuries, like Seth Rollins hurt. What's going to happen there? We're going to do you get the real good conspiracy theories. Not like, it's not like, oh, the government's trying to kill you with a COVID vaccine. Newsflash, it doesn't. Stop faking, little leg reactions, lady. And all this other stuff. It's just these people really go on there because what happens is wrestling is like fantasy booking. And now you have an opportunity when you have a free agent. Like, man, you can make some dream matches. Everything is done right. But if this man shows up at my Rumble, and I think his contract expires in February, but there's nothing to say that he can't do a little like telegraph appearance, right? I would think. Wrestling, one thing, showing up and appearing is another without actually doing action. I'll kind of pop a little bit, and I'm going with Derek, and I have to kind of explain to him why this guy's talented because maybe you don't see it. Because if you don't know, you have to be exposed to it. It's the same way of like a Brock Purdy. If you didn't watch him in his school, you're not going to know how great he is, right? But it is very interesting because it can be a monumental shift. The same thing with like Mercedes Moné, who used to be Sasha Banks, let her contract expire, and she kind of wanted to do her own thing, tore her knee. She's back. Is she going to show up in my Rumble, or is she going to show up in AEW? We'll find out. But that's going on with there. Some things about WWE that should be mentioned before I go into my Royal Rumble extravaganza. Going from that, Netflix has the rights for Raw starting 2025.
I was gonna ask about that too.
10 years, $5 billion, and apparently it's gonna be commercial free.
Money.
Holy crap, that's a lot. I have Netflix. I know some people are upset about it because I don't want to pay for Netflix and stuff like that. I'm like, okay, how are you watching Raw? You're paying for cable. If you feel that Netflix is becoming just like cable, that's erroneous. If you're paying for multiple streaming sites, then you should pay for cable. That's always my logic. You know what I mean? A singular thing doesn't make it as bad. I think we hate just to hate, right? The prices of things go up is because they're actually mass producing content quality that you're feeding into, but it's not just to you guys, but it's on an international scale. So the rights are to have Netflix distribute for Raw as a streaming service, as a service going on live, for the US, Canada, and then some parts internationally, but not, worldwide. It's not fully international. Nick Khan has done an excellent job since he came in of finding 2 things. 1, for the WWE make money, and then 2, screw over Vince McMahon and get him ousted because Vince is fully gone. Vince is fully gone. I think that happened during the off season of our show, where Ari Emanuel's like, nah, bro, we're going to let Hunter and Nick just do everything. And they're making money. They're making venues. They're going international.
Between the year of the Charles and the year of Francisco.
Yeah, it was really, the overlap is really good. We're in the same situations, just talk to each other, and we're in the same dimensional aspect, but we just don't recognize it. And I'm just so in love with it. And I actually don't utilize Netflix that much. I have it for the folks so they can watch it. But I'm more of a Hulu guy because Hulu always has like shows I watch and then get some weird stuff. Like I use.
By the way, Zom 100. Yes. I guess that would have been a non-sponsor for me as well. Yeah, that's a really good show. I recommend it.
Okay. I'll take a peek into it. I'm so behind. I've been watching is Ted on Peacock. because I like the first Ted movie. I will tell you right now, and I got caught up in the Twitter and the clips. I'm like, let me go see this. Is only 6 episodes. It's basically Family Guy, which basically Ted was. But if you want a few cheap laughs and you can scroll on your phone, go watch it. There you go. I'm like it's like a 6 out of 10, but 6 doesn't mean it's bad.
There we go.
6. All 6s come together. So Raw's on there, and more money would make you think that they're going to pay their people better too, because that is $5 billion in this course of 10 years. And remember, Universal just paid a whole bunch load of money for SmackDown. And then remember, the CW, that's CW, paid a whole lot of money to get NXT. Business is good when you have money. And what Nick Khan has done, follow me on Twitter, Nick Khan, I don't care. Hunter Hearst Hemsley, Triple H, follow me, please, Paul Levesque. Is they realize instead of putting money in one pocket, they're putting money in every pocket that their pants have. And they're wearing cargo shorts, guys. And that's a total of 6 pockets for anybody who's had cargos. Girls, you hated it. You said it's tacky.
It's basically like the NFL model in a sense, right? The NFL's got CBS and Fox and NBC and
Amazon.
And was it ABC, ESPN, and now Amazon, right? So, and of course all the international stuff, like they're in Britain or whatever. Like, so they've realized also that, hey, it's all these revenue streams, all this stuff. I mean, why not just make more money instead of just being exclusive to one thing, which is, what they should do with their video game franchise. But, doing it for broadcast and everything like that, it's been really helpful for them. And I think baseball, in a weird way, does it well with their mobile video games, because they have like 5, 6, 7 different mobile Major League Baseball games, and all of them are pretty decent. So, just diversifying, I can see how that is going to benefit. You get more eyeballs across to get to WWE. Like, okay, some people don't have, Peacock, but a lot of people have Netflix, and I'm like, oh, wrestling, I haven't seen that since I was a teenager.
It's so amazing how we had Peacock streaming for the Chiefs game, and everybody was blowing a gasket on it for $5, and then there's me, $5. Guys.
And then they make a record of the most streams watched ever of all time.
And then there's me, who has Peacock, and I can never speak enough about them. Peacock, you're my other non-sponsor. $5, I have a good amount of the library for WWE and whatever else they bought, and I got to see the Chiefs game. I win. You know what I mean? So, because that's also something that they're paying on, and that's a licensing right that they have for a period of time. I don't know how it works, but I think Peacock's still going to retain certain things of the WWE library, because it's about Raw streaming, and those Raw episodes will go there. There's nothing to say that Peacock won't get those Raw episodes, but they might get it later, because I almost said dimensional licensing because I'm thinking about Alan Wake, but transition licensing, you ever see a movie on Netflix, but it's also on Max at the same time? That happens, guys. So nothing's out of the question. So damn, if you're the belle of the ball and everyone wants to take you to dance, you see how many people are going to take you out to eat first, right? Before you go there. That's my mentality, but they've done very well. So that's monumental. The Rock's a board member of TKO. I don't care. I think that's all pomp and circumstance. If anything, he has 100% of his name. Good for you, Rock. Enjoy it. Go from there. Vince is gone. One thing I'll announce, and then it'll lead to the Royal Rumble, is that there's a lot of intrigue about what's going to happen post-Rumble leading to WrestleMania. So this is my disclaimer. The Royal Rumble, for anybody who's trying to figure out what it is your NFC or AFC championship, because WrestleMania is said to be like the Super Bowl. We'll use football terminology. This is the AFC NFC championships, and sometimes those games are better than what you get in the Super Bowl, right? Remember what you had the Buccaneers and the Chiefs, and the Chiefs were just estimated. Or if you remember the Broncos versus Seattle, and Seattle just lit them up and everything. And sometimes those games that were the week ahead or 2 weeks ahead were much better. This could be it. There's a lot of intermingling storylines. You can build feuds into it. And I'm not going to go into the full details. It's a small card. So we're going to just talk about those match predictions. I'm going to talk to you about what it means to me. It is 4 cards right now, 4 matches on the card. You have the Women's Royal Rumble, the Men's Royal Rumble. Charles was the Royal Rumble. 30 people, not all at the same time, but 2 start on the ring, and then it builds up and people get eliminated, and the last person standing gets a title shot at WrestleMania for their choice of title. And there's multiple titles, but it's not like you pick the IC or whatever. You get the main title. So it's either going to be the men's World Heavyweight Championship or the Undisputed Universal Championship. And then for women, it's going to be the Women's World Championship or the Women's WWE Championship, because they rebranded the name, so there's no Raw and SmackDown titles. Thankfully, because that's how you avoid the trade issues when people go to other places getting drafted. So does that mean Netflix is going to be drafting people? That's interesting, because remember the whole thing I told you about. So do I get a Netflix representative?
Wait, hold on. Wait, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's kayfabe, but okay, I remember there was some Fox people and some NBC people. They're like, "Oh, Fox is going to get this person, Netflix is going to have, or Fox can get this person, Universal is going to have this, or USA is going to have this person." But knowing Netflix, they're creative. They'll make like a game show out of it. You're like, "Oh, hey," they'll give you a behind-the-scenes streams of their people going from there.
Yeah, I mean, they're building upon this because they had like massive success with like the F1 thing. Mm-hmm. And now they're getting into it, and that's kind of like after that was like their gateway. And of course now they of course have the sports documentaries, Last Dance and whatever. They got the quarterback, whatever they call it, on that too.
Yeah.
But the F1 stuff was getting them into it, and now they're like, okay, let's go big on WWE right now because it's hot. And it's I'm looking forward to it. Like Amazon's gonna buy Bally. Or at least buy into it so that we can get Bally Sports. I'm like, I already got an Amazon Prime account. I'd love to just be like, okay, now I can download free games every week and get the Marlins and Panthers and Heat. Thanks, Jeff. Thanks, Mr. Bezos.
When some people wonder why Netflix will waste their money on what they deem to be fake, y'all will watch you. Netflix at some point had old archived episodes of Jeopardy, a game show. From years ago. They still
have game shows. They make their own game shows,
Correct. So I want you to really contemplate that, because they want to see if they can catch it on a slow day, on a snow day. Hell, I bet Netflix hopes and prays that it gets a COVID pandemic number 2, right? So you could just watch the wrestling and all that other stuff. Anywho, 4 matches on the card: Men's Royal Rumble, Women's Royal Rumble, Logan Paul defending his U.S. Championship for the first time, even though he won that at like a November pay-per-view at the Saudi pay-per-view against Kevin Owens. Ooh, that's going to be good. Roman Reigns in a fatal 4-way match against Randy Orton, AJ Styles, LA Knight. I called that a while back. I originally called it as a triple threat, and they included Knight. That's been good. They're doing a good story. Nick Aldis is the GM now, so now they have 2 separate general managers on Raw and SmackDown. You have Ava Raine, who's The Rock's daughter. Same day he gets on the head of the table at TKO. Watch and see, right? She's now the NXT general manager. And prediction-wise, because I'm not going to tell you like why I'm excited for each match. You just know I'm excited it's going to come into it. But Logan Paul, Kevin Owens, Logan Paul wins. Men's fatal 4-way, Roman wins, but it's going to be different because Roman has not defended his title in a fatal 4-way in the 3.5 years he's had those belts. So it's going to be new, refreshing. There's good storylines that build to it, so I'm excited for it. Here I am saying I'm not going to tell my theories and stuff, but I lie. I'm a hypocrite. What can I say? Randy's back from a back injury. He was out for 18 months. It's going to be fantastic. AJ Styles back looking like the lone wolf, all jacked up. And LA Knight's going to have his propelling into his WrestleMania match against presumably Logan Paul, where he'll win the U.S. belt. But this will be a good cool-off for him to go into another title scene in the mid-card. Going to be a good match. I hope so, because your boy is excited. Men's Royal Rumble match. Because with the women's, I'm going to give you 2, but this is the hill I die on right here. Men's Royal Rumble match is going to end with 2 winners. And it's happened multiple times, and hopefully it doesn't end with like Vince McMahon coming out storming, tearing his hamstrings again. Its most notable has happened with Bret Hart and Lex Luger. I think that was the first time, and they both went over the top rope and feet touched the ground at the same time, and they both challenged Yokozuna at WrestleMania, if memory serves me correctly. And I don't remember which Mania was. I think it was Royal Rumble 92, where they had a double winner. Now I have to Google that because I want to make sure coming from it. But the way I have to, it's one of those things. I said 92. Let's see if I was right about 92.
At predicting these, or not predicting it, but recalling it.
Yeah, well, that's the whole thing. It was, or was it? No, I think 92 was Flair winning it. Yeah, Flair won in 92. I think 93 is when you had the double coming into it. Regardless, regardless, maybe it was 95. It doesn't matter. Here I am, Yokozuna 193. Here I am just being this. I have to be a little smug, right? I have to be smug. What can I say? The point being is that with the men's, I think they're going to replicate it because they've been building a very hot storyline with a returning CM Punk. It was 95. Am I right? 94. I was off by 2 years. Off by 2 years. Yeah, it was a double elimination. They called one. And they've had other ones, but it's time for it now. They've been running a good storyline between Cody Rhodes and CM Punk. I sent you guys the full 13-minute promo. I'm invested. I was like, yeah, I'm in this. I'm in this right now. I want this. I want this to happen. I think they win it. I think Punk challenges Seth if Seth does not have to vacate the title because Seth tore his MCL, real life. I don't like them taking – they should vacate the title, but they're not going to. I don't like them having Seth not challenge or defend the title leading up to it because Roman's not going to be defending the title all the time. But the point being, I think Punk will use his challenge against Seth, and I think Cody, that's how he gets to Roman. Because I would have been sick if Cody won it back-to-back. I think it's cheap and tawdry. There's other ways you can go from it. And I would have been sick if it was Punk who wins it all on himself because I feel like Punk doesn't need a title. We saw what happened in AEW. Body didn't really work for him, whatever. But if you gave me the co-winners, I'm all for that. It's Occam's razor booking, and you should go with the simplest ways to do it. Ooh. There's no dark horse. I'm going to keep that. The women's is very tough.
Okay. No, I have a thought for afterwards. I have to keep it in after you finish your preview because there's another question I had to ask over the course of this time frame. But finish, continue. You're on a roll.
The women's is tough. It's probably going to be Bayley since they can build a damage control storyline and have her go against Io Sky because her own faction keeps growing, but she's getting pushed out. She founded it and 2 SummerSlams ago, and now Io Sky's a champion, and she's been supported. But Dakota Kai, Io Sky, Kairi Sane, and Asuka have been kind of pushing her out. Sure, I guess. It's tough. I don't want to give it to her. And the thing is with the current rosters is that Becky and Rhea Ripley doesn't have to happen with a Royal Rumble win by Becky, right? If anything, you should have Rhea kind of find a way to screw her over, and then you build a blood feud towards it because I think the match will be very good if they have it at Mania. Because Becky, with the status that she's at, is kind of like I can challenge for the belt anytime. It's Cena-esque, really, or Randy-esque, really. But the thing is, I look at the roster, I'm like, okay, who on SmackDown could win, or who on Raw would go to SmackDown to challenge her? And you can't do Bianca all the time. Yeah, Bayley might go for it, but Bayley's probably going to win, but it's not like who I want to win. The only person I could think of, because if you're having it really has to be Bayley. That's the problem, because you're not going to have Bayley go through all this stuff. However, if you do have a returning person who was once a WWE wrestler, who is and she let her contract expire. She walked out with the women's tag team titles when her and her partner Naomi won it. If she came back and won the Royal Rumble, a certain Sasha Banks, who's coming back, who is currently as Mercedes Moné, who is Bayley's bestie, and she sees what happened to Bayley, and she goes and takes care of her best friend, even though they have history, and she beats Io Sky, and she gets her main moment. That could be good. Or you have she also left, and what a great way to bring her back in as she went to her excursion in Impact as Trinity, but come back as Naomi, who is Jimmy Uso's wife, come back and win the Royal Rumble and do it and set business on in SmackDown. I think that gives a great way to to really start a hot babyface run, because Naomi is coming back. She lost the Impact title as Trinity against Jordynne Grace at Hard to Kill. I believe it was Hard to Kill. Lost that belt, had a rematch, lost that. So she's coming. She's going to be at that Rumble. I think you should do that. You don't have to play with the story of Bayley needs to get her revenge against Io. Have her try to stay loyal to the end, get screws over Io at Mania to help Trinity win. Naomi, assuming she comes back with that name, because sometimes that happens. They change their names, they come back, and sometimes they'll have different names, or the names that they went off to go do different stuff with. So for this time purposes, we'll call it Naomi/Trinity. But Bayley's probably winning, whatever. What the Royal Rumble means, and I'm stealing a lot of time, I'm sorry. This is big for me because you don't expect to do it. I got into wrestling when I moved to Polk County, Florida. It was nothing on my mind in New York. I hope it's a good event, going from there. But and I'll stand on business that, Naomi comes back, she wins it because I have to, right? It's probably going to be Bailey, but I got to let the fandom come into me. I have been to a live event when I was with an ex-girlfriend. It was a SmackDown tour. I got to see John Cena, AJ Styles, and Jinder Mahal. I got to see all these other people. It was interesting. I didn't get to see Roman, right? And I don't think I saw Seth. Unfortunately, I'm not going to see Bray Wyatt. He passed. He died. So sad, right? Coming into it. But the Royal Rumble, I've been to a live SmackDown where I saw Vince McMahon. I saw Kevin Owens return. I saw Bryan Danielson. I was like, woo, it was good when I was in North Carolina with my buddy Tony. This one hits a little bit differently because it's not under Vince's scheme, thank God. Paul has done a very good job of building the Royal Rumbles. Last year was great, ended with Sami Zayn turning on the Bloodline. Really a lot of interesting arcs that we can work with that I can get behind. The match card is good, but I think it's kind of like, it's what it's all about, guys. When we get older, you got to kind of like let go of some of the things that you kept as a child and that mentality, because you had to become a different kind of person, man, woman, or whatever. But those little events, it's the reason why we go see our superhero movies, right? Mm-hmm. It's the reason why we like to go to Disney and scream over some kid who just wanted to be an actor but couldn't be, and now they're stuck in a goofy costume, right? This is my equivalent of it. And I am at floor H, row 21, seat 17. I'm there. I made sure that we were positioned with the Royal Rumble because it's 30 entrants, but people come back. They come back from injury. They return after years of being gone. It's NXT call-ups that you might not know about. It's people you can see. I get to see their entrances. I can see them in front of me. I will say this. Anybody who has a sign and they put up, you have 15 seconds to have that sign up, and it's only allowable during the intros because I swear to Christ. And you can do it at the end too. If someone wins, there's whatever, because I've seen it. If you hold that for 15 seconds more, whether man, woman, or child, we're going to have some words. And the lawyer voice is going to come out because I've done that before. This is not your moment. This is our moment. The communism, hold up the sickle here, right? You obstruct my view, you're obstructing everybody's view. And I have no bones about to tell you about it and say that you're being selfish and rude to everybody. And then I'm going to get everybody else who has obstructed your view to talk down to you. Do not play with me on that. I'm dead serious. But I had said, hey, law school was hell. We're always going to be I'm going to be in debt till the day I die. I am paying off those loans, man. I don't overpay. I pay at the minimum. That's the thing about me. I produce for this world, stuff like that, but I have bills to pay. I got to put food in my stomach. I got to put a roof over my head, right? I got to buy video games. I don't even buy video games at full price, okay?
Yeah.
But with this one, I was like, nah, man, we're going to do it, and we're going to do it right. I'm not going to get into the nosebleeds. I'm not going to look at credit cards exist for a reason, right? You don't max out. If you have to max out for a wrestling ticket, you're doing it wrong. That's my mentality. But we're going to sequence it out. We're going to plus it out, and we're going to go from there. So I'm going to see it, and it's going to be for that little kid whose first wrestling toys were Stone Cold Steve Austin and Undertaker and Francisco. I might be seeing those guys. Taker is doing something in St. Peter, Pensacola, like the next day, his Dead Man Sessions or whatever, whatever that's called. They all have different names, so I'm just
it's a
putting
weekend,
all
right?
together.
I mean, and they all basically are based in Florida, so
So, but I might see Undertaker visually with my eyes. Never thought he retired a couple years ago. I might see The Rock, and I don't have Rock on an upper echelon of great wrestlers, but I still grew into that. Everybody loved The Rock. Everybody who wasn't typical, because wrestling wasn't as diverse in who the wrestlers were. Derek and I went over what was non-white wrestlers who had success. So for him, it gravitated. For me, it gravitated a little bit. You got people who knew how to talk on the mic, who had a different kind of look, a different kind of physique, that had a constant evolution, that had some good stories, that had comedic chops. He's going to be there. I'll pop for The Rock, right? I'm like, holy crap, because I don't pay for The Rock's movies because he's terrible. He's a terrible actor, very average. Yeah, right. Just going from there. But, I always thought he was an efficient wrestler. So that's where the monies would come into, right? We always did the eyebrow. We always did the imitation taking off the elbow pad. I rock bottom plenty of my friends back in Winter Haven, Florida, man. Like, trust me on that stuff. I played him in the video games. I did all this stuff coming into it. It is there. It's going to be about seeing the modern day wrestlers whose t-shirts are. I bought a new Roman Reigns t-shirt. It is levels above. That is the mentality. I got 2 Roman Reigns shirts that I wear at the gym. The needle mover, the main event right there. I'm like, that's my mentality. I'm a needle mover. I'm going from there. Wrestling positivities on character is a great way to kind of get yourself out of any kind of professional funk or life. Levels above. There's level above this. I'm levels above you. I'm like, yeah, I'm wearing that. My coworker, she got me the old school Royal Rumble socks for Christmas. I'm wearing that. Derek got the same thing too. He's gonna wear the We the One shirt. Technically, I have 3 Roman shirts when you have the bloodline. I think it's the culmination of, truly, I get to get out in the environment. It's not me rewatching old wrestling or playing video games. It's not like me playing Super Mario Wonder, right? Where I'm like, oh hey, or Mario RPG. I'm like, hey, this is stuff that we played as kids, but now we get to do it at a new flavor. This is a continuing thing. So this is gonna hit the callbacks because it's not gonna be nostalgia. It's gonna be that moment where both the 7-year-old and the 34-year-old are in sequence at the same time. And I think that is a great reference. And that's what the beauty of wrestling is. For me as a viewer, is that it's going to connect throughout the years. And then I do think that I'm going to be hit with this dawn and this wave that I don't understand. But it's going to strike me an emotion that I would never have before. I'm not going to sob and cry. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about a new kind of pleasure and enlightenment. We're like, yeah, man, we did it. Because I'm also like, if I was in those nosebleeds, that's great, right? Whatever. I'm driving 4.5 hours. But something's up there because it was a different excitement. And I have not shoved about it since I bought those tickets in October. And I'm ready, man. I'm 3 days away from seeing these people. And I got to tell you, Fred, Hulk Hogan's probably going to be there. And, aside from him being a racist, it's still Hulk Hogan, right? But I'm like, But if I hear, I'm not going to lie, I'm going to feel a little bit. If I hear the glass shattering and I see that bald, Texas
hot
rattlesnake.
dog skin, do whatever.
Yeah, if I see Austin come out, I'll
okay,
feel it.
Okay.
Yeah, no, not Hogan. I'm talking about Austin because that was those thing, the glass shatter, the glass shatter. And even if Triple H comes out, I don't know if he'll come out or not. He's not going to be in the ring, but he comes out to do an intro because there's only 4 matches on the card, which is surprisingly low. And each Rumble match is like an hour or so. So they must have something to buffer in between. It's just you get this kind of excitement. And I know this sounds corny. There's events in your moments that you'll remember, whatever it was good or bad, but you know that you were live for it. And that's the feeling I'm going to have going there. And I'm willing to go to the Trop, which you've known me for a very long time. And I've said, I hate the Tropicana. I'm going to sit on heroin needles because God knows they don't clean up anything there. That's why no one showed up to your playoff games. Sorry, Andrew, I got to get the rub in. But that's what it means to me, to where both the child and the man can be lined up at the same time, and we're going to share the same emotion. And it's very rare. This is the best way I'm going to equate it to you. You remember Ratatouille when he takes the bite out of it, and he's the food critique, and he had just life's bland. He's doing his thing, and he bites it, and he just remembers mom making it for him. Go from there, boom. That's the best way I can explain it, and that's what it means to me, and that's what I'll give you on the cage.
Okay. Well, there's one last.
You have questions, but that's fine.
I have one thing. Just your thoughts on the fact that because you saw this, Iron Claw didn't get a single Oscar nomination.
Oh, I did see it. That's right. I did see the movie.
Worthy, not worthy of any?
I don't know, man, because they just do what they want to do. How are you going to give, Ryan Gosling for Barbie, which I also saw, and not give it to Margot Robbie or Greta Gerwig? Okay. The Oscars, the Academy Awards have been rigged for decades. I still felt that
baseball of fame.
Yeah, I still felt that Ralph Fiennes should have got it for Schindler's List over Tommy Lee Jones and Fugitive. But it's whatever the moment is. And then the Lord of the Rings: Return of the King winning it is obviously typecast because this movie made a lot of money, and I guess it's not like Harry Potter even won, so let's just give it to these guys and run with the nerds and everything like that. It's whatever. It's tough. I saw the movie. I gave it a 7 because I knew actually what happened to the Von Erichs. And this is not a spoiler. All you have to do is watch the Dark Side of the Ring episode, and then they died. And then that one died. And then that one died. It held into it. It wasn't really, to me, a wrestling movie. I felt wrestling was part of it, and also in the background, wrestling was a supporting character. It was more about a brotherly dynamic of having siblings. Okay. Coming into it and your love for siblings. But it was good. It was tough. I went with my friends because she was just getting into wrestling, and she's like, "This is the saddest thing ever happened." But me, because of my knowledge, I mean, there's so much stuff that she could talk about. And wrestling's not for everybody. And listen, I'm gonna tell you guys right now, for those who were trying to propel a Chris Benoit movie, no, Chris Benoit is a murderer and a killer. Yes, you can say he was a good, great wrestler, but he's a terrible human being. And if there is a hell, I hope he's burning there effectively. You could make movies about the Hart family if you want to, but that's also kind of depressing. Owen Hart, British Bulldog, Anvil went at some point coming into it. But or you can, how about this? You can just make movies that's not about real life wrestling, but about wrestling stuff. Go see Aronofsky's The Wrestler. Was it Aronofsky? Yeah, I think it was Aronofsky who done it with. You had Mickey Rourke get Oscar nomination that he lost against Sean Penn in Milk, which was also a good movie. Yeah, I guess it's tough, but it can create a lot of culture. But it was a good, fine movie. I don't know if you want to. Yeah, it was Aronofsky. I don't know if you want to do like based movies off wrestlers and the tragedies. There's a lot there, but it's how you like your movies. But the Academy Awards, everybody likes applause, sure, and that's what an award is. That's what Ray Fiennes said talking about the Academy Award nomination. But the thing is, if you put in the work, and people put in the work, the same way of how you view it in sports is that baseball, only 30 teams. There's 30 teams in the league, but only one team can win it. It doesn't take away certain things. Granted, it's not rigged the way that this is, but to go to the Players of the Hall of Fame, to bring it full circle, Gary Sheffield, Alex Rodriguez, because I'm putting A-Rod in there. I put my name up for him. Wagner for you. You guys know you did good work. You can have people tell you did good work, and you cannot be accountable for the audiences of one who have the final say. Plain and simple. And that's life too.
Okay. All right. Just one of those thoughts, but so that's the end of the episode. I'm just gonna plug in. I do have 2 actual merch lines. I've actually put some stuff out,
which are good and they're sexy.
Yeah. So I'm hoping people enjoy those. Already got the hat. Already got the things. So they actually turned out pretty well. And I'm gonna try and be more consistent with that, because you get my creative endeavors back into all of.
You have not made any Sports Goofs attire for a while.
No, I have not, and I think I probably should make something at least that we've kind of been throwing about here for quite a bit. So there you go with all of those. So aside from that, yeah. So that's it. So that's it for the episode. So I'm just gonna say goodbye. Bye, everybody. I'm gonna play us out with something really good though.
Take care.